It keeps doing this thing where it fucking disconnects my mic. It's how annoying. And it looks like... It keeps doing this thing where it fucking disconnects my mic. It's how annoying. And it looks like... It keeps doing this thing where it fucking disconnects my mic. It's how annoying. And it looks like... It keeps doing this thing where it fucking disconnects my mic. Okay. Jesus. Oh, what a lot of technical issues we were running into this stream already. Holy shit. This is why we start on a waiting screen, Booksmarts. Come on now. This is why we start on a waiting screen, buddy. The one day I'm in a hurry and I skip all of my checks is, of course, the one day that things go tremendously wrong for me. Oh, boy. That's why he's called Booksmarts and not Tech Smarts. True. Sorry about that. Okay. I think we should be on track now. So let me go ahead and start over with everything that I tried to say the last 2 times in a row. While I wait for a separate VOD to show up on my YouTube so that I can fix things. Are we even live on YouTube right now? Let me go ahead and check. So that I can fix things. We are live on YouTube. So that probably means that YouTube is going to get a lot of time where I'm not talking. Okay, whatever. It happens. It happens. Thank you for the tip. Thank you for the tip. Let me go ahead and read it out because TTS is broken. To be fair, you are very good at talking with your hands. Okay, well. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. Hello, VOD people. I love you. I'm sorry. I had a whole wonderful love message for the VOD people that I did that I will not be able to replicate. So unfortunately, you guys missed it, but I hope it was funny. If you missed the VOD yesterday, what has happened temporally in time, and if you're way, way, way far into the future, then, you know, I'll give you an update. Yesterday, I was covering the opening oral arguments for a Supreme Court case. Not the opening arguments, the oral arguments. I'm going to get these things mixed up because we're listening to a podcast today called Opening Arguments. It was oral arguments for a case that was like Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health. It was the subject of the leak that Politico talked about the day prior. Basically what happened was the majority opinion for the Supreme Court in a draft got leaked and everybody was going to cover it. And I figured rather than just cover the document, rather than just read the Politico article, which may already be more than what some people in the space would do, I decided, hey, let's listen to the oral arguments for this. Let's look at the case, the facts of the case. So I opened up with an introduction to the Supreme Court, the way that it works. Then we looked at the history of Roe v. Wade, and then we looked at the case facts, and then we listened to the oral arguments. And after that, we finally got to a point where I felt comfortable that we could read the Politico article. And after getting that far, I don't think it's important that we read the draft, honestly, because the draft is not what will be published and what will be the law of the land. Things can change. Apparently, things have changed in the past historically. So rather than kind of feeding into that hype, I figured we knew where things were going at the end of the oral arguments. We could have predicted that the majority opinion was going to be what it was going to be. And that would have been something apparent to people way back in December when the oral arguments were first heard. And for people in the political know, they could have guessed that back in October, like people like I'm Really Important. So that's kind of the situation that we were left in at the end of the last VOD. However, there's tons of stuff I missed. Apparently, there's some kind of like legal gaslighting going on with the way that the justices are kind of interpreting the law and the way that they're interpreting a lot of the cases that they're bringing up. That includes Kavanaugh, that includes Barrett. So what we're going to do today is give some professionals the opportunity to speak on the platform via this podcast. And if we hit this donation goal down below, which we already have 10 of the 100 towards, then on a probably a separate day because we're going to run out of time. I have like a dinner thing going on at the house, which is why I'm trying to do this right now, even if it's not the prime time for people in the US. I just want to get it out of the way. That way I can go and do my dinner stuff and be good for the rest of the day. But on another day, our next stream, we'll cover this second podcast as well if we hit that goal. That's the plan, Stan. In the background, I will have Dungeon of the Endless going. So if you need to keep your eyes busy with something, or in my case, keep my hands busy with something, then that's for you. Sorry for those problems that happened initially. I listened to this morning. Great podcast. Yeah, it's really great. I'll be quite honest with you. I've pre-listened, okay? So I've listened to opening arguments 548 and 593, and I thought both were good. And so I think I'm gonna go ahead and play those out and give my platform to those folks to kind of talk about their side of things. Now, they seem to be very opinionated in favor of lefterly politics. So if that's something that bothers you, then maybe today's not the stream for you. Honestly, if you're not a fan of lefterly politics and you're pro-life, you got a lot of content yesterday with the 8-hour VOD. So I don't really feel bad about taking this opportunity to hear from some educated people that are in favor of abortion rights and to hear what they thought about it. So that's what we're going to do. And I just hope you can see the fairness in that. You guys had a lot of time yesterday. He seems pretty left-wing, but still accurate. See, that's the thing, is I can't gauge the accuracy because I'm not a professional, but we'll get into this a bit. Let me go ahead and adjust my cam because we will be doing gaming today. And then we'll go to our proper scene here. And I figure we don't need a lot of noises here. Oh, I have a continued save game. We'll just do a new one. And I have the music, of course, turned off, and I'll go ahead and turn the game down even further because we don't need to really hear the game so much as we need... it's already turned way down. So much as we need to hear the podcast. So I'll get that going here. And again, this will be opening arguments number 569, which no, not 569. What is it? I believe maybe 539. Let me check my scene here. 548. Okay, I'm way off. 548. All right. So let's go ahead and give it a listen, and we'll jump into that. Wait, why do you say the draft is not important? Because it's subject to change? The draft isn't important for a bunch of reasons that we kind of outlined in the last VOD, but I'll give you the cliff notes of it. So number one, the draft is not important. Yes, because it is subject to change, subject to radical change, actually. Number two, it's not important because we listened to the oral arguments and we already knew the direction that the justices were going. Number three, it's not important because the most important takeaway from it is where the judges are landing right now, and even that is subject to change. Number four, we read the whole Politico article, which commented on all of the different lines of the document in giving context for the judges' opinions. That's kind of just four main ones. So it's not very important to read the draft. I think it would be far more important to read what ends up getting published. This isn't the law of the land. It's not something that is written in stone, and it is subject to change. So we spent 8 hours listening to the oral arguments and listening to the history, and I didn't feel like we were going to get significantly more out of reading technically it's not 90 something pages, technically it's like 60 something pages, but still we're already 8 hours into it, so we're not reading the whole fucking thing. But once the opinion gets published, then that's a different thing. Okay, let's jump into it. Opening arguments, number 548. Here we go. And I'll put it at 1.2.
Vote fascist for the third glorious decade of total law enforcement.
How long have you known the plan?
I haven't actually seen it, but I have seen the firm, and I'm planning on renting a Pelican booth.
I must declare a mistrial, which is a term I've heard people use in the movies. Tap, 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 case in.
I got the shotgun, got the briefcase. It's on the game though, right?
Judge gave me 2 ankle bracelets. Said it was the first time he ever had to do that. Your boy's a question on the bar exam. You heard?
Welcome to Opening Arguments, a podcast that pairs a comedian with a real-life lawyer. This podcast is sponsored by the law offices of P. Andrew Torres, LLC for entertainment purposes, is not intended as legal advice, and does not form an attorney-client relationship. Don't take legal advice from a podcast.
Hello and welcome to Opening Arguments. I'm Thomas. That's Andrew. And I feel like we're inching ever closer to Handmaid's Tale in real life. How you doing, Andrew?
Yeah, I'm going to set aside my usual fantastic because I made the mistake of actually watching some of the Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Center oral arguments before the Supreme Court yesterday. And, my usual sunny optimism and demeanor has been replaced with we're in a super bad place. And weirdly, like those of us on our side, right? Anybody to the left of the Republican Party seem weirdly and oddly unprepared for this. Yeah. So happy to do the show with you. Always love that. That parts are fantastic. We have an unbelievable couple.
What I will comment on very quickly, it is important to remember that this is happening right after the oral arguments happen. So this is before we get a leaked Politico article. This is before we get a ton of coverage of the case. So these are people who see on the horizon the overturning of Roe v. fucking Wade. And they know it's going to happen because they've seen how the brief was handled. They've seen how the oral arguments were handled. They know what's coming. And it's not being talked about. It's not being publicized. The people are not up in arms about it the way they are right now. And so they know what's coming months before we know that it's coming. And they're just flabbergasted that it is not as big a deal as it ought to be. So that's really, really, really important context for understanding the rest of this podcast. This is happening right after oral arguments in December, and there's no word of this happening. People aren't kind of tuning into it.
Couple of things to share that just like made me smile beyond all belief, but no, that those oral arguments yesterday were painful.
I almost wonder if we should save our happy things for the end or something.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I agree with that. Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that. Don't let us forget though. Okay. We'll save our happy bits of good news for after we talk about the Handmaid's Tale trial.
Let's do that. Can I kind of set up?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so this is the long-scheduled oral argument in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Center, which involves what the media keep describing as a 15-week ban on abortion in Mississippi. And that's sort of true, but entirely misleading, right? In the sense that that ban contains with it a springing law such that if the Supreme Court overrules Roe v. Wade,
wink, wink,
as part of upholding the 15-week ban, it immediately bans all abortion throughout the state of Mississippi. So we should not be talking about this as like, well, do we push it back from 23 to 15 in Mississippi? Yeah. If the Supreme Court rules in the way that I anticipate that it will, and upholds the constitutionality of the Mississippi statute by explicitly overruling Roe versus Wade, which I think is likely to happen, it becomes a 0-week total ban. Abortion will become illegal in Mississippi and as many as 21 other states. Let me be clear on that. We're going to get into it. But that is 22 states where if you're pregnant, you will be immediately potentially capable of being charged with a crime if you seek an abortion. I don't know why that's not the headline every single day in every single newspaper in the United States.
I still can't get over it. And like even right now, I'm just overwhelmed with, I don't even know what to say. Like we're sitting here in the year 2020, I think I'm told, I don't know, it might be 2020 or 2022, somewhere in there, within 3 years, I know what year it is. And the court seems poised, by all indicators here, to overturn Roe v. Wade, like a bedrock fundamental right that I would have thought we as Americans should have. Now, functionally, Roe v. Wade has been overturned in many places for a long time. I get it. But like still, to get to this point, that's 50 years. I was shocked to hear, I'll transition to my first clip. I could go to a couple places for this, but I might as well just I'll go to the end, because the end is when the guy who looks like exactly the kind of person who would be arguing in front of the Supreme Court to take away abortion rights, that guy, like whose face is exactly that, he summarized his case.
In closing, I would say that In his dissent in Plessy versus Ferguson, Justice Harlan emphasized that there is no caste system here. The humblest in our country is the peer of the most powerful. Our Constitution neither knows nor tolerates distinctions on the basis of race. It took 58 years for this court to recognize the truth of those realities in a decision, and that was the greatest decision that this court ever reached. We're running on 50 years of Roe. It is an egregiously wrong decision that has inflicted tremendous damage on our country and will continue to do so and take innumerable human lives unless and until this court overrules it. We ask the court to do so in this case and uphold the state's law.
Yeah, and to respond to you guys in the chat, because I'll let it play for as long as I can. Yeah, I hadn't heard of this podcast before yesterday either, but it is now, like, I've listened to quite a few of them now because I actually really enjoy the concept of having the comedian talk with somebody who is a practicing lawyer and whatever. I think it's an interesting concept, and I think it's something that I've found myself really enjoying, at least over the past like maybe 18 hours or something like that. So yeah, I've had fun with it, and I would highly encourage y'all to give it more of a listen, and that's why I'm taking the day to do this, even if they copyright strike it or something like that. You know, I'll put up with it, but I think it's something worth sharing, and I think it's something really cool. But yeah, it's a cool concept.
Thank you, Your Honor. I
find that really shocking, Andrew. We all know that's what's going on, but is this one of the first times they've been so bold as to be in front of the Supreme Court and say, overturn Roe?
It isn't, but it is the first time that advocates could have the level of confidence that you just heard in that closing argument on behalf of the state of Mississippi. So we've talked about this. We did a deep dive into Planned Parenthood versus Casey, a two-parter back in season 1. And that was the last time that the right wing tried this trick, okay? They looked at it and they said, hey, we've had a pretty good run. We had an awful lot of, Nixon appointments. Then Jimmy Carter was president for like 8.5 seconds. And then, we had back-to-back terms of Ronald Reagan plus Bush. Like, we've controlled the presidency as Republicans for all but 4 years, from 1969 all the way up to 1992. And shocker, what that means is we've had an awful lot of Republican Supreme Court nominees. The court's way more conservative than it was in the 70s, which was true. And so why don't we test these Reagan appointees out and see if we can get the court to explicitly overturn Roe versus Wade. And so what they did was they crafted a series of laws that were designed broadly to appeal to the public, but also plainly to violate the Roe versus Wade trimester standard. Again, we've been through that. Go back, listen to those initial Casey episodes, because I think we did really, really good work in that, and there may be a historical footnote in a couple of months. So the Roe test said that the state may not burden. In other words, it was a trimester balancing test. It had absolutely nothing to do with the viability of the fetus or anything like that, except that it roughly coincided.
Put a pin in that, everybody.
Yeah, it roughly coincided that fetal viability in 1973 was roughly equivalent to the third trimester. But instead, what the court did, the government did a classic kind of balancing interest. And they said, and again, I'm going to use the archaic language from Roe versus Wade. We've spoken on this issue a lot. It is very, very important to know that trans men can become pregnant. That has led to hospitalizations, death, a parade of horribles. We have spoken out on that.
You mean when people don't recognize that fact?
Yes, exactly. Gotcha. It's led to men who come in who are marked as men in the hospital, say they're pregnant, and then they don't get triage, right? Okay. We are in solidarity with you, our trans listeners. This is a case from 1973. Roe versus Wade said, there are two important interests here. There is the state's interest in protecting future life, and there is the women's liberty interest in determining what to do with their own body. So we came up with a 3-part balancing test, right? We said, hey, first trimester, the woman's liberty interest is paramount, and therefore the state may not interfere with her right to have an abortion. Third trimester, state's liberty interest is paramount, and therefore the state may outlaw abortion entirely in the third trimester. It doesn't have to, but it can. And then in the middle, they're in equipoise, and so we will tolerate regulations, but not outright ban it. And that was the state of the law for 20 years. And then Pennsylvania and a bunch of other states in the early 90s, at the direction, completely astroturfed, ginned up by the same groups that are doing this now, decided that what they wanted to do was come up with legislation that was broadly popular that would nevertheless contravene the Roe versus Wade trimester system. And what they came up with was parental consent laws. And again, I am opposed to these laws. We are both opposed to these laws. But you can understand the focus group driven nature of how these laws were crafted, right? It was, hey, your daughter's 15. Shouldn't you have a say? Shouldn't you at least know if she's going to go get a medical procedure?
Do you know if your daughter's getting an abortion or not?
Exactly right. And that wound up being a very good wedge issue in getting suburban parents who would identify as pro-choice, right, who certainly were not pro-life, to say, well, okay, but this seems like a reasonable restriction. You should tell me if my daughter is about to have a medical procedure. Never minding, of course, that the only reason not to tell the parents based on, significant in-family abuse. We don't need to go down there. But notice that structure violated the Roe trimester system because you had to inform the parents and or get their consent.
So that would be like a regulation in the first trimester?
Right, exactly. Okay. It would be a regulation throughout, and that's prohibited in the first trimester. So when Planned Parenthood versus Casey was teed up, the first question that was asked, the way that it was argued was, you should overturn Roe v. Wade.
Really?
This is a good example of that. You were a little young. Planned Parenthood versus Casey is a 1992 decision. I was a politically aware teenager, and there was the same level of tension of, hey, the Supreme Court just heard oral arguments in Planned Parenthood versus Casey. This could be the case that overturns Roe versus Wade. And it was heralded as a surprise and a victory for the sort of apolitical impartiality of the Supreme Court when three Republican appointees. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, as you say, a court that had been controlled by Republican presidents for 30-something years, -4 or whatever. Not even that court would out and out overturn Roe. On the flip side, a court that is full of appointees from presidents who haven't won the popular vote except a single time in the past however many decades. They, on the other hand, are going to overturn Roe, and it's sickening. I don't even know how to deal with it emotionally.
Yeah, and the reason is that this court has abandoned all pretense of being apolitical and trying to reach the proper result. I want to read a little bit from the majority opinion, again, written by 3 Republican appointees. Sandra Day O'Connor, Anthony Kennedy, and not too many people know this because he drifted immediately to the left, but David Souter, George W. Bush appointee. Back then, they did not have the Federalist Society gatekeeping to make sure that you only appointed ideologues, and what happened was George W. Bush appointed somebody that was recommended to him as a jurist of impeccable intelligence and integrity in David Souter, and got that. That used to happen too, but in any event, the Casey opinion, written by those 3 Republican appointees, begins, part 1 says, liberty finds no refuge in a jurisprudence of doubt. Yet 19 years, they were like, man, it's been 2 decades of and it's now 5, right? 19 years after our holding that the Constitution protects a woman's right to terminate her pregnancy in its early stages, that definition of liberty is still questioned. Joining the respondents is amicus curiae, the United States, as it has done in 5 other cases in the last decade, again asks us to overrule Roe. And then it goes into the importance of stare decisis, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But to begin kind of this monumentous holding with, when we're talking about fundamental rights, this should not be something that is up for grabs based on the political content of the Supreme Court. I'm guessing you're not going to see that language written in a majority opinion or concurrence, except possibly ironically in this case.
Well, why don't we go to the quote that I think is getting probably the most coverage that I'm sure everybody's already heard, but just in case you haven't.
What is this stream for? So I really want to listen to this and be a platform for this, because when we covered this yesterday, I don't know about legal stuff, and there's a lot of legal stuff that this guy knows, one of the co-hosts on this podcast, that he shares, that I really want you guys to hear, especially if you heard yesterday's stream. So I think it's important context, and it gives more of a pro-abortion, pro-federal abortion right angle that I didn't have injected into the coverage yesterday. So that's why we're listening to this. And yeah, gotta respect how crafty Republicans are. Certainly, yeah. Honestly, both of the parties should be, because they're made up of lawyers, and lawyers tend to be crafty people. But yeah. I think it's really good for people to listen to this, and that's also why we have a donation goal, which, let me make sure it's visible. Okay, it is. That's also why we have a donation goal for whatchamacallit, for another episode of this where they cover the leaked document as well. And, you know, it's finally everybody catching up to the things that they were concerned about initially. And yeah, I think I think it's worthwhile listening to, so that's what we're doing. And I'm just trying to be quiet and let it play, basically. And then I also don't have a lot of time to stream, so every time I interrupt like this, we have less and less time to listen to the whole thing. This is big for America. It most certainly is. So it's important to note a few things, or they were important to me at least. So states that are Republican, or that are anti-abortion, they had laws waiting for Roe v. Wade to be overturned that would be enacted the moment Roe v. Wade was overturned. And then there are other laws that have been like put on hold because of Roe v. Wade that now, if they challenge it in the courts, could have the hold removed and then immediately go into effect. So there's a lot just waiting behind this damned wall of Roe v. Wade and of Casey v. Planned Parenthood. And if Roe v. Wade is overturned, all of those laws can go into effect in 20-some states, I believe it is, that are just waiting for that to be done so that they can begin the process of getting those laws on the books. So, yeah, it's huge because the only thing preventing those states from doing that up until this point has been the federal protections for the right of women to get an abortion, right? And I put right in air quotes because that's kind of what has been up for debate here, and that's kind of what is being removed, is this idea of a federal right to abortions because of your right to privacy and a few other rights that are guaranteed to you through the Bill of Rights and other amendments to the Constitution. And so through that interpretation, we found that women should have the right to do this thing, and it's being removed. And I think a lot of the reasons it's being removed that yesterday we didn't really point out as being super problematic appear to be much more problematic when you have a legal understanding like these folks do. And so that's why I'm putting it on the screen. I see what you mean. It's like a waterfall effect. Yeah. Beyond that, I would say it's like, the tidal walls come down. If you've seen the most recent Batman movie, spoiler alert, it's like when they blow up the seawalls and the entire city gets flooded. That's how I would describe this. So yeah, this has been the only thing holding this back from happening, and now it's going to happen. But if you're a states' rights advocate, if you believe in the majority vote of the people to decide this, 20-something states all moving towards restricting abortion rights access should signal to you that maybe this is part of the problem, is the Supreme Court deciding something where, this huge chunk of the states and of the population doesn't agree with this, that's another thing worth considering. But under that same logic, and this podcast got me thinking more about it, we would still have segregation. We would still have a gazillion other problems if we only left it up to the majority of people to decide on what kinds of rights people should have access to. So to some extent, the Supreme Court needs to be this kind of buffer that sits between the states and what they decide, or the government and what it decides, and what is constitutional. And it needs to protect the rights of minorities of people that would otherwise get trampled by the majority that would take them away. And so it's a complicated issue, and I don't know, it's shaken a lot of my ideas about my principles about states' rights and stuff like that. So I'm definitely in a state of flux, and that's also again why I want to share this with you as well, because don't put right in air quotes, but I'm going to do it because that is the question. And I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass like any of your other lefty creators that this is something that, like, come on, bro, everybody believes in this, bro. Women obviously have the right to an abortion. Look at the rest of the world. Like, unfortunately or fortunately, regardless of what your opinion is, it's not set in stone like that. It isn't. And it changed on a dime like this, right? So, like, I need you guys to confront the reality of things, and if I'm going to be the only streamer to tell you the way that it is, then I'll be the only streamer to tell you the way that it is. But the reason why I put rights in quotation marks is because that's the big question here. Do women have that right, or do they not have that right? Could we look at the enumerated powers that are given by the Constitution and infer that there is a right there? Because it's certainly not expressed explicitly in the Constitution, but there are lots of rights that are enumerated and are not explained explicitly in the Constitution. So no, that is the huge question here, right? So, I'm going to keep it $150 with you guys on the reality of the way that things are going with this. And it's not something that's super fun to think about. It's not something that's super fun to confront. And I really do wish I could just tell you that, yeah, women should have that right. And maybe that right should be federally guaranteed to them. But that doesn't appear to be the opinion of the courts right now, whether you agree with it or not. And that's something we have to confront. That's something we need to work forward. If you're a Democrat, that's something you got to to work forward as a Democrat? Do you want to codify that into law? Do you want to pack the courts? Do you want to be more serious about voting for Democratic candidates for president, regardless of your bickering and your qualms with them? And those are the kinds of themes that are going to be discussed not only in this podcast, but in the next podcast if we hit that donation goal. I think the next podcast is much more on that kind of vibe of like, hey, this shit can happen, so we've got to vote. You've got to get over your stupid bickering about whatever the Democratic candidate is. You need to put more fire under the ass of your politicians, not just to take the presidency and to get out there and vote, but also to codify these things into law. So it's not a matter of a Supreme Court decision by a court that is packed full of conservatives to decide all of that. And yeah, I think that's where things are at presently. You know, so that's way more convenient to be a man considering this so neutrally. Sure, and I'm not running away from that. You know, I'm just telling you, like, you know, let's just be real, dude. Anywho, I'm gonna play it and we'll keep going, but Roe v. Wade just needs to be put into law explicitly, but it's never going to happen because the left sucks at actually getting votes. Well, maybe this will put fire under their ass to change things, and this is something that they talk about in the next podcast. Again, if we hit that donation goal, you know, about like historically what has happened when the court is fucked up like this, and what have been these cycles of fuckery in the court, and what has happened legislatively as a result of what's been happening in the judicial branch. And I think all of that's interesting. I hope we hit the dono goal to listen to that later.
Sotomayor had some things to say. This is reported in the New York Times and everywhere and elsewhere as Sotomayor, and that's who I was about to say it was. And I realized as I'm hitting play on the video, Andrew, because there isn't actually video, this is just audio recording, but I'm on C-SPAN here on YouTube, and they have graphics up with like who's talking, and they show the headshot. And they show that this is Kagan speaking. Would they have had like court reporters who would have been able to see this, or no? Is this closed?
There are definitely folks observing in the gallery, and I will tell you that the official transcript from the court reporters lists this as Sotomayor.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, so this is this. So I thought it was Kagan because I watched the video, but I apparently so.
Ooh, there's a dono. Wow, $90. No message. $90 from ooh. Well, we've hit our goal. That's definitely queued up. I don't know if we could watch that or listen to that today, as I've been saying, but the next stream, you best believe that that'll be playing, and that'll be the first thing that we open up with. So thank you to Ooh, thank you to Saiku for funding the goal for today. I'm super duper happy about that. That's rad. And I'm going to be happy to share another episode of Opening Arguments with you guys. I think it's a wonderful podcast. I think it, you know, and again, I'm sorry if I pissed off the person before who was upset about the rights thing. I think there's every reason for tempers to be flaring about this right now. But you know, like, I think you'll enjoy both this episode and the next episode, because they will be things that are talking in your favor. And the next episode in particular will be a call to action for Democrats and for people that want to support reproductive rights. So I think all of that's going to be good to listen to. And I'm happy that we've hit the goal and now we'll be able to. Anywho, enough of my dumbass talking. Let's listen to these intelligent folks and their well-produced show, right?
Sotomayor, but in either case, here's someone who I think properly understands and is articulating what's going on here.
Will this institution survive the stench that this creates in the public perception that the Constitution and its reading are just political acts? I don't see how it is possible. It's what Casey talked about when it talked about watershed decisions. Some of them, Brown versus Board of Education it mentioned, and this one, have such an entrenched set of expectations in our society that this is what the court decided, this is what we will follow, that we won't be able to survive.
Will the court survive this stench? What do you think?
So I at least appreciate what Justice Sotomayor is doing here. The shift in her conduct and oral arguments, in her temperament, in her dissents over the past couple of years is the equivalent of the opening arguments like, it's time to play hardball. And I think the only kind of remaining strategy is the Sheldon Whitehouse amicus brief that we mention all the time, filed in the New York State Pistol and Rifle Association case, that basically calls out every single time this Supreme Court is going to agonizingly, wring its hands and go through the motions and play pretend as if it is doing law when what it is doing is reaching a predetermined political outcome. I don't know if that will work. So far, the only person that it appears to work on the court's right wing is Justice Roberts. We talked about the shame John Roberts
irrelevant
strategy. Yeah. But that's right. Like we've now moved from, the prediction, and I should be very, very clear about this. We recorded, one of our most somber, heartfelt episodes was the one we recorded after Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. And the difference between John Roberts being a swing vote as a very, very conservative justice who can be shamed because of concerns about his institutional legacy versus John Roberts being the fourth vote and there being a hard 5 block of conservative political activists cannot be overstated.
Why don't we talk about that? Because basically all the coverage I've seen and my impression from watching the oral arguments as well is like, you've got these arguments happening, and then you've got Chief Justice John Roberts in the corner trying to make this appeal to absolutely nobody. Like, no, he's like, hey guys, what if we just, what if we move the line from 22 weeks or whatever to 15 weeks? Would that be fine? Like, we could just do that. And everybody's like, somebody hear something? Did you hear something? Anyway,
that's where we would have been. Yeah, that's where we would have been had Ruth Bader Ginsburg stayed on the court.
Yeah, because his vote would have mattered, and now his vote does not matter.
He would have brokered a compromise, and that compromise, mind you, still would have been disastrous for the United States of America, right? But basically, he would have gone to the court's 4-justice liberal wing at the time and said, all right, I'm going to sign on to the howler monkey opinions unless you're willing to come together and give me kind of a Casey-like decision that reaffirms its central holding, but pushes the viability standard back to whatever and makes something up, right? Because, look, a fetus is not viable outside the womb at 15 weeks, so you can't say it really kind of is still viable at 15. It isn't, right? You have to make up a new standard. That's where Roberts would have liked to have gone as Chief Justice of a conservative but not discredited Supreme Court. And it doesn't look like he's going to get there.
Which, by the way, would have been perhaps, again, the more competent evil. Yep. Because that's just about as horrible, but then all the headlines would have been like, wow, Roe is saved. They didn't technically overturn Roe. And
those were the headlines around Casey. Yeah.
Yeah. But now we might, for better, well, for worse, but I guess the tiny positive note on that is that if they do actually just overturn Roe, we don't have to put up with a bunch of gaslighting headlines that are like, oh, it didn't actually overturn Roe. So I guess that there's that tiny saving grace. But it may be more sinister to do it how Roberts has been doing it, which is to pretend you're not doing it because people don't pay attention and legal coverage is tough, I guess. Maybe this will motivate people more to actually just see that headline, like Roe overturned. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think you should play Stewart's answer and then Sotomayor's comeback. It's right. It's right.
Oh, sure.
After.
Yeah, let's keep it rolling.
How will we survive? How will the court survive?
Justice Sotomayor, I think the concern about appearing political makes it absolutely imperative that the court reach a decision well-grounded in the Constitution, in text structure, history, and tradition, and that carefully goes through the stare decisis factors we've laid out. No, it didn't.
Casey went through every one of them. You think it did it wrong. That's your belief. But Casey did that.
Just like your opinion.
And you haven't added much to the discussion in your papers as to the errors that Casey made, other than I disagree with them, Casey.
Okay. I would not want to be Mr. Stewart at this point. This is because he is lying to a Supreme Court justice in open court, and it does not matter, right? Yeah. That is the power dynamics here. I would be terrified, to have a Supreme Court justice, to have any judge look down at me, and to know that what I'm about to say is complete and utter bullshit. Here are the Casey factors. This is the standard. This is from page 855 of the Casey decision. And this is the standard. It's not just a special rule for abortion, right? The Casey test has been the test that the Supreme Court has applied in every case until Janus versus Ask Me, which we've discussed, which was basically like, we don't like this old case from the 1970s, so we're getting rid of it, which is part of why we've harped about it, because it was so dangerous. Prior to that, again, for a good solid 30 years, what this court has done is used the following adjudication to figure out, hey, does stare decisis apply? Should we continue to enforce an older decision that maybe we personally disagree with, would have decided differently, we think could have gotten it wrong? Or do we do what the Supreme Court did in Brown versus Board of Education and look back and go, nope, this is 100% wrong, right? Like this is, Plessy v. Ferguson said separate but equal is fine. Brown versus Board of Education said separate is inherently unequal. There's no squaring that circle. So here's the test. enforced. So in this case, we may inquire whether Roe's central rule has been found unworkable, whether the rule's limitation on state power could be removed without serious inequity to those who have relied upon it, or significant damage to the stability of the society governed by it, whether the law's growth in the intervening years has left Roe's central rule a doctrinal anachronism discounted by society, and whether Roe's premises of fact have so far changed in the ensuing 2 decades, or now 5 decades, to render its central holding somehow irrelevant or unjustifiable in dealing with the issue that it addressed. That is an incredibly high burden to clear.
Boy, I think Alito has something to say about that.
Go ahead.
Is it your argument that a case can never be overruled simply because it was egregiously wrong?
I think that at the very least, the state would have to come forward with some kind of materially changed circumstance or some kind of materially new argument, and Mississippi hasn't done so in this
really?
case.
So suppose Plessy versus Ferguson was re-argued in 1897, so nothing had changed. Would it not be sufficient to say that was an egregiously wrong decision on the day it was handed down, and now it should be overruled?
It certainly was egregiously wrong on the day that it was handed down, Plessy, but what the court said in analyzing Plessy to Brown and Casey was that what had become clear is that the factual premise that underlay the decision, this idea that segregation didn't create a badge of inferiority, had been entirely mistaken.
So
and
is it your answer that we needed all the experience from 1896 to 1954 to realize that Plessy was wrongly decided? Which answer my question, had it come before the court in 1897, should it have been overruled or not?
I think it should have been overruled, but I think that the factual premise was wrong in the moment it was decided, and the court realized that and clarified that when it overruled.
So there are circumstances in which a decision may be overruled, properly overruled, when it must be overruled, simply because it was egregiously wrong at the moment it was decided.
Well, I think every other stare decisis factor, likewise, would have justified overruling in that interest, that actually it would run counter to any notion of reasonable reliance, that it was not a workable rule, that it had become an outlier in our understanding of fundamental freedoms.
Well, there was a lot of reliance. There was a lot of reliance on Plessy. The South built up a whole society based on the idea of white supremacy. So there was a lot of reliance. It was improper reliance. It was reliance on an egregiously wrong understanding of what equal protection means. But your answer is, I still don't understand. I still don't have your answer clearly. Can a decision be overruled simply because it was erroneously wrong, even if nothing has changed between the time of that decision and the time when the court is called upon to consider whether it should be overruled? Yes or no? Can you give me a yes or no answer on that?
This court, no, has never overruled in that situation just based on a conclusion that the decision was wrong. It has always applied the stare decisis factors and likewise found that they warrant overruling in that instance. And Casey did that. It applied the stare decisis factors. If stare decisis is to mean anything, it has to mean that that kind of extensive consideration of all of the same arguments for whether to retain or discard a precedent itself is an additional layer of precedent that needs to be relied on and can form a stable foundation of the rule of law.
Okay.
Ooh, what a quote. By the way, we should give credit where it's due to this brilliant attorney, Solicitor General Elizabeth Preligar. Yeah, she's brilliant, and that was quite a rejoinder. This show is brought to you by Raycon. I bet you've just gone through a weekend of looking for Christmas gifts, because that's the society we live in, and I bet you didn't get all of them. There is no way that you got all your gift shopping done. So I've got a great idea for you. This is a great gift scramble, especially because right now
is the egregious and ridiculous sleight of hand that Alito uses in framing the question, well, could we have, if nothing changes, it's 1897, could we overturn Plessy versus Ferguson?
Like,
and the answer to that
gives
is
a shit?
Sure,
Yeah.
right, because it's last year, right? Like,
Oh no, what happened?
Vote fascist for the third glorious decade of total law enforcement.
We live in, and I bet you didn't get all of them. There is no way that you have other premium audio brands with their latest model. You get scramble, especially because right now our listeners will get 15% off site-wide with code HOLIDAY at buyraycon.com/opening. Go to buyraycon RAYCON.com/opening and use that code HOLIDAY to.
You're kidding. All right.
We have
Brown versus Board of Education.
Entire Raycon order. Buyraycon.com/opening. Go there now.
I want to comment on a couple of things here. The first is the egregious and ridiculous sleight of hand that Alito uses in framing the question, well, could we have, if nothing changes, it's 1897, could we overturn Plessy versus Ferguson? And the answer to that is, sure, right, because it's last year, right? Like, because, and you see her trying to formulate a nuanced answer. There's no reliance. The Supreme Court, there's absolutely no stare decisis reliance interest that you would put in a rule you decided last year, right? So when you construct that as the hypothetical, now let's get past that. Now what you want to say is, suppose nothing changed from 1896 to 1954. By the way, a position that you would have had, Justice Alito, had you been on the bench from 1896 to 1954, right? Those espousing your ideology were the ones defending Plessy versus Ferguson, but we'll get to that in a minute. If the argument is, if nothing had changed, then you would not have that factual predicate to look back and go, oh, yeah, the idea that segregation does not create a de facto second-class legal standard would also not have permeated the legal and public consciousness, right? Like, we would not have had that opportunity to say, yeah, this rule is unworkably awful. This rule, the factual assumptions that the Supreme Court made in 1896 turned out to be dead wrong. And the idea that it is the court's hidebound reactionary contingent that are pinning themselves to Brown versus Board of Education, when Brown versus Board of Education cannot be judged, cannot be justified in any way by the originalist standard that they use.
This is super duper important and not something, again, there's lots that I didn't pick up on. If you use this originalist approach, it wouldn't have worked in the cases that the justices, are citing. Like, a very important detail there. Like, if we were to take your same logic and apply it to the case that you're citing, you would not have ruled in favor of changing things. And these are the kinds of details that these folks pick up on that I think is important to share with y'all.
Who's in interpreting the law, right? Like, is just galling, right? It is like hearing Christopher Rufo, quote from Martin Luther King.
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly that.
It's grotesque and it is wrong. Now, let's explain the game here. I referred to in the last answer, Janus versus Ask Me, the 2018 decision, which had to do with the question of whether a public sector labor union could recoup administrative expenses, non-political expenses, from non-members on whom it nevertheless bargains on their behalf, or whether non-members had the constitutional right, mind you, this is what Alito invented, to demand back a share of those union dues when they disagreed with the union.
That's weird. Where in the Constitution does it say that, Andrew?
Anyway, yeah, no, that only works when, you're talking about where in the Constitution does it say abortion.
Yeah, just for those who didn't watch the whole article.
And they're referring to a case where, and we touched upon it when we were covering Alito in the Wikipedia, a case where it was about whether or not people that are not part of a union have an ability, because unions collect dues even on non-union members, to then get that back. Also, why are we posting? Is that Bad Bunny or Stardust or what? Like, I can't see because my eyes don't work no good. It's some kind of woman putting her hands together with eyebrows, but I don't know who that is or why. BB is Bad Bunny? Okay.
Oral arguments. That's said a number of times that there's nowhere in the Constitution does it say a dog can't play basketball, Andrew. So.
Right. And again, as we point out the danger of that, there's a sidebar, but we point out the danger of that argument in episodes 533 and 535.
Well, I have a quote to go along with that, if you, real quick.
Let's do the sidebar and then get back to Janice.
Okay, we're sidebarring. Everybody put your pins in and we'll all take them out at the same time.
Counsel, there's so much that's not in the Constitution, including the fact that we have the last word. Marbury versus Madison. There is not anything in the Constitution that says that the Supreme Court, is the last word on what the Constitution means. It was totally novel at that time. And yet, what the court did was reason from the structure of the Constitution that that's what was intended. And here in Casey and in Roe, the court said there is inherent in our structure that there are certain personal decisions that belong to individuals and the states can't intrude on them. We've recognized them in terms of the religion parents will teach their children. We've recognized it in their ability to educate at home if they choose. They just have to educate them. We have recognized that sense of privacy in people's...
Also, may I add, you guys talked to me like I was a fucking R-slur because I thought that there was an important distinction between schooling and education, but this is such an important distinction that even the Supreme Court had to go through the differences of them, and it was an important thing to distinguish between. So, like, that's part of why I get really frustrated with some of the critiques that I get about the critiques I give on to other people, because like I know in my heart of hearts that these are important distinctions to make, and I'm treated like I'm autistic, or I'm treated like I have some kind of disability that is putting me at a different frequency where I'm not able to understand where the average person's brain is or something, and I'm focused on something that is completely irrelevant to the point at hand, and I just it frustrates me to no end. But anywho, let's continue because it's a bit of a sidebar here.
Choices about whether to use contraception or not. We've recognized it in their right to choose who they're going to marry. I fear none of those things are written in the Constitution. They have all, like Marbury versus Madison, been discerned from the structure of the Constitution. Why do we now say that somehow Roe versus Roe and Casey are so unusual that they must be overturned?
Well, Justice Sotomayor, I would emphasize two things. When you're going beyond the Constitution, this court has looked closely to...
No, what I'm saying is they didn't go beyond the Constitution.
Your Honor, they did not deduce those from the structure of the Constitution. They pointed to the 14th Amendment and reasoned
which is
that,
part of what? Amendment to what?
In Roe, the
14th Amendment to nothing.
Led to a right to abortion. That's not how this court traditionally does things, even including in the vast number of cases that Your Honor ran through. The court looks to history and tradition, and here, those decisively reject the proposition that states cannot legislate comprehensively on abortion before, after viability, and all throughout. So it's history and tradition, Your Honor. And I would also add,
you got to cut off there, and then we will go back. This is the gaslighting game on the originalist mode of interpretation that we just have to call it out every single time you hear it. No, throughout the history of the United States, the court has not been driven by history and tradition as the sole touch points for understanding what a right means. And that is clear in every aspect of jurisprudence, including, by the way, jurisprudence that Neil Gorsuch has signed on to, right? Like Neil Gorsuch's textualist interpretation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, discrimination on the basis of sex, he extended to protect gender identity, transgender individuals, and sexual orientation, not because of the history and tradition, right? Absolutely. There's zero history and tradition.
The rich history and tradition in this country of treating gender non-conforming people.
That's zero. It had to do with the text of that particular statute, or read broadly, the text of the Constitution. And when Elena Kagan said we're all textualists now, this is the sense in which she meant it. Because when you read the Constitution, you understand that certain phrases cannot possibly be interpreted literally, cannot possibly be interpreted according to their dictionary definition, must be interpreted as a general principle, as setting up a framework from which we adduce specific rules. If you don't buy that, then, as Justice Sotomayor just said, and you played, you do not accept Marbury versus Madison stare decisis. You absolutely cannot accept Brown versus Board of Education. You know why? Because Congress had the right, there was no home rule in the District of Columbia in 1896 to 1954, and the same Congress that passed the 14th Amendment set the D.C. school budgets and standard, right? Like Congress governed D.C. almost entirely during that time period. And guess what Congress set up? Segregated schools in D.C. So if you look at history and tradition to govern how we interpret a constitutional provision, you will not arrive at any of the Supreme Court's landmarks opinion. You will arrive by definition at the most hidebound institutionalist conservative result possible, because that's the way it's always been done. That's all history and tradition means.
It's infuriating. They keep, multiple times, again, I watched this whole thing multiple times. They love to tout the, if we can't overturn cases, then we never could have decided Brown, overturned Plessy and decided Brown. And as you point out there, just to make crystal clear, there is absolutely no originalist justification for overturning Plessy, right?
You cannot. I mean,
there's no place in the Constitution where, as they say, it's unbelievable. So the very case they keep using to justify overturning solid precedent is the same case that they never would have themselves decided under their ideology.
I do not fault Solicitor General Elizabeth Prelogar here, who had an impossible job. Did better than I would have done, did as good a job as any jurist, as any lawyer could do in her situation. She has a real future in the judiciary if she wants it. I mean, this is a top-notch legal mind. So all of that being said, I do not fault her because it is impossible when you're standing there, even when you recognize that it's a farce, to turn around and throw the question back at Samuel Alito and to say it's something like, and again, this is Monday morning quarterbacking in the extreme, to say something like, I'm a little confused at your question, Justice Alito. Could you articulate the history and tradition that underlie overturning Plessy versus Ferguson, as opposed to that being the argument being cited in favor of maintaining Plessy in 1954?
I think you're crossing the streams here, because this is Scott Stewart making the history and tradition argument, right?
Right. But it was also, that's what I'm saying is, when Preligar was being questioned by Alito for the standards of stare decisis, it is 100% legitimate to take the standard that the other side is using, right? And to then, so the way in which you craft the question, and again, I'm not sure this is a good question, I've specifically said that, is to say, Your Honor, I want to understand your question in light of the standards that the state of Mississippi has articulated for a stare decisis, which seem to me to be incompatible with the gravamen of your question. Mr. Stewart, on behalf of Mississippi, has said that what counts for stare decisis is history and tradition, and there are, of course, no history and tradition-based arguments that would appeal to overturning Plessy versus Ferguson.
Yeah, it's the opposite, right?
Yeah, it is superiorly easy for me to say that because of one weird trick that you've probably picked up on, and that is this. It is 100% permissible for Supreme Court justices to interrupt lawyers arguing before them. It is 100% impermissible for the lawyers to interrupt the justices when crafting those questions, and that is beaten into you since sort of...
And that's, again, the reason why I like this podcast is because I learn about things that there's absolutely no way I would learn about them if I were listening to it on my own and stuff like that. Like, there's no way I would pick up on the rule that, like, the justices can always interrupt, but you can't interrupt. And that's, of course, going to play into the way that you, structure your questions and the way that you approach answering things, right? And it's probably an important factor to... why things have ended up the way that they've ended up, or why these people are responding the way that they're responding. Okay, I should have only one review. Yeah, and if you die in this game all the time, I think you just really have to take it slow. You really need to focus on your modules, and you really need to think about, like, every failure that you have. Like, why did those enemies make it through this round? What was different between this round and another round? And you have to pay attention to all of your failures and figure out what's going wrong. You need to figure out how you're using characters and how you're not using characters and where they're placed. Like, you just need to think more strategically. And I think the best way to get better is to notice the failures there. The game is Dungeon of the Endless. That is the game of today. But yeah, I think failure teaches you a lot in this game, at least for me. And I can play it a lot faster than I'm playing it now. And that's usually how I play, is go as fast as possible. But I'm trying to pay attention to the podcast as well.
Day one of law school, and there's just no way. I mean, you'd have to be amazing, to get off like that level of multiple nested prologues to that. So again, just fantastic stuff by Preligar in what is ultimately going to be a losing cause.
Here I just fucked up because I didn't light these rooms like a fucking monkey, dude. Yeah, I'm a monkey.
We're going to see just how losing probably in about 6 months.
And that's the thing. I mean, just talking about that in general, Alito was trying to get her to admit, which I guess would be a crushing admission if she said, yeah, if a case is wrong, just overturn it. Who gives a shit? But, like, Roe wasn't wrong. So, so I just want to note that the whole thing is stupid. Like, the whole thing is, we're stuck, it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can kind of go off of this, but we, and by we, I mean, the brilliant attorneys who are defending reproductive rights against the in front of the Supreme Court here, are caught in the position of, all right, we know this court is a swamp of crap. Like, we know that, I am going to play the Amy Coney Barrett quote that made me almost throw my computer out the window as I was watching it. We know it's a toxic mess of garbage. So what we have to do, instead of saying, hey, dummies, people should have a right to their reproductive freedom. Like, the end of case, what are we doing? Why are we arguing? What is anything? We can't do that. We have to say, well, but stare decisis, like, don't overturn, and it's just a losing battle to try to say, I know you guys are patriarchal, toxic garbage monsters who want to take away reproductive freedoms. However, please don't, pretty please don't, because the court has
And this kind of brings me to the point that I gave in the warning I gave at the beginning, that these people are very, very, very much so politically interested in the outcome of this case and stuff, and it's going to come out in the way that they talk about it. They're frustrated that they can't make the case for the thing that they're doing. They're frustrated, A, that the court is set up in such a way where it's not likely that they'd win even if they put forward good arguments. And B, they're upset that, like, they even have to try and make good arguments, that they can't just kind of make a layman's argument for why women should have these rights or whatever. And I'm sure you guys are in a similar boat, you know, like, why can't we just make the argument that women should have the right to choose what happens to their bodies and whatever? This should be self-evident, yada, yada. But this is not the way that it works. And I think Steven said on Twitter today or yesterday, you know, like, we're going to need better legal defenses that last longer. And I don't know if Roe v. Wade was that. And so that's kind of the tough part of this. And that's also why maybe codifying it into law is a lot smarter. You know, a much smarter approach to doing things.
Previously said they won't do that and made decisions that don't go that way. And we've relied on it and these other tests, as you say, about stare decisis. And I just think fundamentally that's a terrible place to have to kind of be, just logically speaking, and B, ultimately a losing argument anyway, because they don't give a shit about stare decisis, right? Do I have any of that wrong?
You have absolutely.
Isn't it lazy? Like, every group would want that? Yeah, of course. Which is why, like, I don't think it's helpful to bring up or mention. And it's why I warn people who are listening to this today. Because, like, yeah, of course, every group is going to think that what they believe is self-evident and everybody should believe in it and whatever. That's why it's a vacuous thing to say, in my opinion. But, you know, it's what you're hearing is emotion and frustration. And, you know, when something seems so obvious to you, but it's not to other people. I think this is something we could all share. And we all have this feeling about one topic or another. But, yeah, no, it's not putting in the mental effort or whatever to make the case and yada, yada, yada. But I understand it like a human level. I empathize with it.
Absolutely none of that wrong. And let's pull that pin.
If they want to do it this way, they can make an amendment. Here's the problem. You're not ever going to. Not now. Maybe not even in 50 years from now. Because you know what? 20-something states were waiting for Roe v. Wade to be overturned in order to put into place their own laws restricting abortion access, which means that 20-something states would definitely not sign on to an amendment that would guarantee abortion rights to women, because 20-something states and the majority of the people that live there do not believe in that. So that's the problema. And that's also why I'm careful not to kind of cuddle you guys and tell you that, like, yeah, of course, women should definitely have this right and everybody believes this and whatever, because it's not the case in this country. It isn't. People don't believe in that. There are 20-something states that are just waiting for this case to be overturned so that they can put either back into place legislation they've already written, or to put into place legislation they specifically designed to snap into action the moment this is gotten rid of, or et cetera, right? Because they don't believe in that, and you're not really going to get the 2/3 majority to have the convention and the 3/4 majority to put it into to ratify it. I don't think. Now, could you do that about restrictions on the Supreme Court? Yeah, maybe so. I think that's more likely, or other kinds of things. But in terms of getting abortion rights in as an amendment right now, no. And I think that just by zooming out and looking at what's happening after this will be put into place, you can see that that's not happening, right? Is the argument they're making in this podcast that certain rights shouldn't be up to vote if everything were just up to legislation? No. They're making a lot of arguments, right? So, and it's tough to just summarize it. I think that the primary argument is that the court is pretending like things are working in a way that they don't actually work, that you need this history and stuff in order to discover rights. You don't need that. And the Constitution is meant to be a living document, I believe. Some other people may disagree with that because it's a personal view. And it was designed to be changed over time and amended. And there are clauses like the enumerated rights one that tells us that, hey, not everything is going to be explicitly mentioned in here. And just because one right is explicitly mentioned, it doesn't mean that it leaves all the other rights that aren't explicitly mentioned off the table. And therefore, somebody has to interpret that there are rights that exist in the Constitution that should be guaranteed to people that are not explicitly mentioned in there. And we're going to have to figure out what those rights are. And when the Constitution was designed, I don't know if they had in mind the Supreme Court would be the body to necessarily decide that. And honest to God, I know that the court thinks that they were meant to do that. The Supreme Court thinks that was their obvious position given the framing of everything. I think that the founders, at least some of them, may have actually thought that the legislative branch would be the ones to do that the states would do that the states would find rights that people that should be afforded to people, and that the states would all come to agreement on what those rights are and then add them into the Constitution or add them in via laws that would just become commonplace. And then if there were challenges to those, then we would change things as necessary through the Supreme Court. But so I mean it's complicated. It's not as simple as like the certain rights shouldn't be up to vote. But I do think that they believe that the Supreme Court is meant to be this kind of last bastion of protection against majority efforts to target minorities of people and take away their specific rights, for sure. So I think that's definitely going on here. Some of the founders were against codifying a Bill of Rights because they felt that this would happen, that if the right wasn't in the Constitution, people wouldn't have it. I'm not going to pretend like I know that, but sure. Seems like we can't pass anything through the Senate properly, so we're looking for a Hail Mary from the Supreme Court. Yeah, which isn't the way that things are supposed to work, which is like why I'm hoping this helps us confront the fact that the legislative branch is completely useless. Because if the judicial branch is proving to be useless at the highest level with the Supreme Court right now, something's got to give, and I don't think packing the courts is necessarily the radical change that we're going to do, nor do I think that an amendment that's going to change the way the court works is necessarily that short-term solution either. I think the shortest-term solution and the quickest way to solve things is to change the way that the legislature works. And honest to God, I used to be against this, but now I'm totally for it. The Democrats need to be slimy. They need to be fucking slimy. They do. They need to take advantage of every legislative power that they have and almost overextend beyond where I would be comfortable as a citizen because things are broken. We need to get rid of fucking these fucking filibuster bullshit things. We need to seriously take advantage of any majority that we have to trump all kinds of Republican efforts to destroy the fucking government, which it is clear that is what they want to do. Like, we need to realize that it is not a situation where both sides are just like viewing things at a different angle. And I know that I like to portray it that way on stream a lot, but it's not the case. The Republicans are essentially legislative terrorists, and now they're judicial terrorists. And I'm kind of over the idea of treating them as if they are just equal in kind to the Democrats. They're not. And they're more than willing to take advantage of things that the Democrats seem unwilling to. So I think the Democrats just need to start being a hell of a lot more slimy, and they need to do a hell of a lot more with the power that they have. And I'm getting sick of it because the other side is doing it. So you know what? If there are loopholes, if there are shitty things that can be accomplished, then you can go ahead and leave it to the Republicans to try to legislate against it. Because when it comes back around and they take advantage of those powers, we're going to be in the position where we have to legislate against it. And hopefully if both sides just hella take advantage of this bullshit, eventually something will cave that one or the other, when they have power, will make the decision to cut off the loophole. And then that's how it's got to be. Or we as the people need to hold them accountable. But the problem is we have a three-pronged system in the United States with the executive branch, the judicial branch, the legislative branch. What we don't talk about is like the fourth. We have the pillar of the people. And at this point, I'm convinced the pillar of the people, the pillar of the judicial branch, and the pillar of the legislative branch are all tainted. At least with the presidency, that can change every 4 years. And some presidents will be crazy with executive orders and all the other kinds of powers they can take advantage of or be useless, and some presidents will not be. But frankly, like, this fourth pillar of the people, I don't have faith in either. We have like 50% of the people in the country that choose to vote at all in the biggest election, and an even smaller percentage that choose to engage in state level elections or county level elections. So I think that we have failures at so many levels of government in the United States that at this point I would prefer to live in a different country, because I don't care for it that much. So if it takes radical change and people doing crazy shit to close loopholes, to change rules, to get things passed in the legislature that guarantee rights to people, then so be it. Go for it, dude. That's where I'm at with it. It's beyond frustrating that we've gotten to this point, honestly. Republicans have been on the back step culturally for the past 20 years. Yes, but before that, they controlled the presidency for like everybody but Carter for a long time. And before that, they had a chokehold over the fucking Supreme Court in the Lochner era. They just, like, sure, they can be on the back step now, but that's only a for now thing, bro. They only need to be in charge for so long to get massive change that lasts forever. Like with Trump and the Supreme Court nominations. You stupid motherfuckers that chose not to vote for Hillary Clinton because you disagreed with one thing or another, or fucking emails or some other bullshit. You fucked us. You fucked yourself. You played yourself. Because during his presidency, he got to put in two more people into the fucking Supreme Court. Like, I don't know. Three. So it's like, I'm sick of it. And you know what? Quite frankly, I'm sick of the leftist people too in the country. Like, we don't need to spend time arguing with the leftist people either. I don't know what the solution there is, because I think they're right on a lot of stuff. I think the Democratic Party needs to be like the lefty parties in Europe and just needs to be uber left and realize that we need shit. We pay a lot of taxes. We require fucking citizens that don't even live in our fucking country anymore to pay taxes. Let's get some fucking shit for that. I don't care about this military bullshit. I don't care about like half of the shit that we spend money on. Why don't we get things? Why does Denmark get all these things? Why do they get wonderful public transportation? Why do they get free education? Why do you get paid to go to school here? Why can't we have that? Like, I get sick of it. And like, the more I travel, the more I'm like acutely aware that we're like wasting generations of people and wealth on bullshit. And we're not doing what we ought to be doing. We're not accomplishing what we should accomplish. Like, I don't care if we're more China-esque because we have a more powerful government. I don't give a fuck. Like, if that gets us some more of what China gets, if that gets us some more of what Europe gets, if that gets us some more of what socialist countries get, then I want that. Fuck that. I don't care. I don't care if it means that cringe lord fucking leftist people are in government either. I don't care. I want stuff. I want stuff for the taxes that are being paid, dude. Like, I don't know. I'm really frustrated with the government, so that's why, like, I don't talk about that shit very much. So, anywho, let's just play the thing, because you don't need me ranting, dude.
Back out with the Janus versus Ask Me decision. So we went down that trail. Now we come back to this was an Alito opinion. This is why he is so invested in it, because the situation that we described in Janus had been litigated already 40 years earlier in a case called Abood versus Detroit Board of Education. Exact same issue, exact same question. And the Supreme Court said, no, like there's no constitutional right to demand your agency fees back from the union if you don't want to be represented by them. But the significant part here is that the fundamental reason, as Alito says, we upheld a similar law in Abood, and we recognize the importance of following precedent unless there are strong reasons for not doing so. But there are very strong reasons in this case. Fundamental free speech rights are at stake. Abood was poorly reasoned. It has led to practical problems and abuse, blah, 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 blah. And you see that, right? And Clarence Thomas has gone one step further in his opinions, all of which I think have been dissents, but basically has said, you know, if a case is wrongly decided, it has no precedential value and stare decisis doesn't apply. Understand for a second what that means, right? And that this goes hand in hand with our sounding the alarm on the abolition of the Chevron defense doctrine, which is coming. All of this is about removing constraints, both practical and as a matter of history and tradition, that constrain the power of an activist Supreme Court to do whatever the hell it wants.
And here's why I don't care, Andrew, because if we ever wrestle control back of this court, which, by the way, may not happen in my friggin' lifetime because of these appointments. If we ever do that, we're going to have to do the same thing. We're going to have to go there and say, yeah, well, these decisions were wrong and we need to overturn them because they're wrong. Right? I mean, isn't that going to be what we have to do?
I want to save that for a future date because I think you can pack the court, but nevertheless maintain respect for the court as an apolitical institution. And I have some thoughts on that. So I disagree with you on that. But I agree with you on your larger point, which is absent packing the court, it's easy for us to sound the alarm and say, we have a super bad activist Supreme Court, which we do. The comparison I often make is to the Lochner era court. And that was when the Supreme Court invented a whole bunch of economic rights under the Constitution against kind of the rising tide of progressivism, socialism, and communism in this country.
To work in a coal mine as a child, basically?
Yeah, to strike down maximum cases like a maximum 80 hours per week work week. And the court was like, no, we do not think you have the right to legislate that in the United States. And everybody, justices left, right, and center, lawyers left, right, and center, if you ask them in their sleep, what's the most despised, the worst, the lowest era of the Supreme Court's history, will tell you the Lochner era. The Lochner era is, you're sort of drawing some arbitrary lines, but roughly speaking, 1897 to 1937. We have a real good idea when it ended, and we've talked about that on the show, but that's 40 years of a regressive Supreme Court overturning democratically elected laws to try and make life better for a rapidly industrializing country. So if you think, oh, well, you know, it's all just, sometimes we like Democrats, sometimes we like Republicans, like it's all gonna, it is completely consistent with our nation's history to have 4 decades of an activist right-wing Supreme Court, and that's what we're looking at right now.
We're looking at decades and decades of back alley abortions, killing pregnant people if they don't have the money or resources or wealth or whatever to cross state lines and go to somewhere that's not quite Handmaid's Tale. Decades of that. And you know why, Andrew? Hillary had some emails that we didn't like. Sorry, oh my God. How do we not just yell about this for 4 straight hours, Andrew?
I don't know, but
this is the consequence. This is the consequence of this. Again, if you evaluated the election in 2016 and you thought that like there's some otherwise good reason for your abstention or for doing anything other than voting for Hillary, you were just wrong. You were wrong in your calculation. You didn't include the fact that Roe v. Wade would be struck down as a result of all that. It makes me so angry, Andrew. You were just wrong. Oh, but if we elect this centrist Democrat, we're never going to teach.
And here's the thing on this note: it's okay to be wrong. Like, I'm wrong all the fucking time, and I always have to admit to it and shit. We're all wrong all the time. And if you talk in front of a camera for fucking a gazillion hours a day, and that's your job, you're going to be wrong. You're going to look like you're even wrong more than the average individual. But we're all wrong. We all get things wrong. That's fine. Like, if you did not anticipate what was going to happen, that's fine. Like, but... oh, now you know, right? Like, uh-oh, you know, things go wrong. We have to take this more seriously. Like, so, you know, I want to say that because there are going to be people listening to this that are maybe of a different opinion now. And like, it's okay. We get stuff wrong, you know? Hello, what's up, Bilderberg?
Teach a lesson. We're never going to send a message with our vote, Andrew.
You know, I'm in hard agreement. I mean, I'll just sort of point to the contrary, and that is from a factual basis, the Republican support percentage of the vote did not differ appreciably from Mitt Romney to John McCain to Donald Trump. Republicans line up, and as a result of that level of discipline, they have been able to craft a governing coalition that has wielded exceptional federal power with 46% and less of the popular vote. So all I will say is this. You guys send me emails all the time saying, when are you going to play hardball, right? When are Democrats going to play as dirty as Mitch McConnell? I'm now fully on board with that, right? Like I've said, my gentlemanly 2016 is kind of over, and I'm with you. Like, let's pull out every trick we can in the book. I'm going to ask it back of you as a voter. If you're going to play hardball, if you're going to ask me to publicly go out, right? And I'm about to testify before the Federal Trade Commission in a couple of days. I've testified before a congressional delegation, right? I'm doing this work. If you're going to ask me to play hardball, I'm going to ask you to play hardball with your vote. And that is, do whatever you want in the primaries. When the rubber meets the road, you got to give up that, well, you know, this person doesn't support 3 of the 16 things that I think are a litmus test. Like, that's what hardball means. Hardball means lining up, and, you know, 90% of Republicans in 2016 held their nose and voted for Donald Trump. And you know what? They got the stuff they wanted.
Wait, let me just make sure I have you right, Andrew. Are you saying that the Supreme Court justices that we didn't get because we abstained from voting for Hillary Clinton aren't sending a message that's equally as good as the message that the Supreme Court justices that Trump got to appoint are sending? That's not as powerful a message? How could that be?
To use a classic legal phrase, I would say res ipsa loquitur. The thing speaks for itself.
God.
Let's talk about where the rubber meets the road here. What are the implications? So what's going to happen? The idea that there would be protecting the substantive right to reproductive freedom enshrined in Roe and Casey, but just kind of moving it back, that's clearly not going to happen. The Roberts position, a sort of narrow de facto overruling, kind of like Casey on steroids, that says, you know, well, there's some right to an abortion,
which
but,
would
you
be
know,
based on what, by the way? Like,
who
it's so
even knows?
Who even knows? There's zero reasoning other than let's be slightly less evil so that we can gaslight people, right?
Yep. And that, I would say, that outcome would still be better than what we're very likely to get.
What do you think the odds are? You think it's?
I would say 20%, right? Yeah.
Okay.
I would say 75%. What I think we're likely to get is an explicit overruling of Roe versus Wade.
Wow.
And that will be justified. The rhetoric you heard again and again at oral argument, emphasized by
Kavanaugh mainly,
state of Mississippi, and also by Justice Kavanaugh, is, look, this is just sending things back to the states.
It's this brilliant line, Andrew. The Constitution, we need to be radically neutral. Wasn't that the wording? We got to be radically neutral because there is no law in the Constitution. Either way, we have to be radically neutral about abortion, because that's what you do with rights. Right? You're like, well, we got to be neutral about the right. If it's not explicit, how does this not also apply to almost every single other right, Andrew, that's not explicitly laid out in the Constitution? I mean, again, Miranda rights.
Yeah.
Is that in the Constitution? That's one he referenced. I think it was Kavanaugh. I think that was one of his ones where it's like, it's a good thing we, you know, overturned whatever the past case was on that. Miranda rights, those aren't in the Constitution. The only ones that are is, like, you know, free speech, I guess, guns, maybe according to them.
According to them, but not according to the text. But yeah, here's how Kavanaugh asked the softball question of Stewart on behalf of Mississippi. He said, and as I understand it, you're arguing that the Constitution is silent and therefore neutral on the question of abortion. In other words, the Constitution is neither pro-life nor pro-choice on the question, but leaves the issue for the people of the states or perhaps Congress to resolve in the democratic process. Is that accurate? And then Stewart says, yes, absolutely. I'm going to nod up and down, right? Replace abortion with I don't know, marriage, contraception, right? Anything.
Yeah, interracial marriage.
There is absolutely no ground. If it is not, the Constitution is neither pro-marriage nor anti-marriage and leaves it up to the people. So, you know, you want to pass a law saying that white people can only marry white people? Well, you know, that is, again, opening arguments 533, 535, we go through. The next domino is contraception. And if you don't think that, I said this on Twitter, if you don't think that, like, where were you for the Burwell versus Hobby Lobby case, right? Like, it is very, very clear the right wing is opposed to contraception. They fought it all the way to the Supreme Court and won for the right of your crap store to not have to cover contraceptives in their healthcare plan. So if you think they're not going to come back and pass laws banning the kind of contraception that they think is just as much murder as abortion, right? And that includes IUDs, people. If you think that that's the case, then you're way more optimistic than I am.
Opening Arguments is brought to you by Talkspace. You know, some people might be afraid of seeking the help that they need with their mental health for various reasons. Maybe you're afraid of opening up to somebody. But I just want to say, as somebody who has gone through therapy and highly recommends it, that's that person's job. And that's the beauty of it. That's a good thing. You don't want to try to open up with your deepest, darkest thoughts to a family member, somebody you got to see every day. You know, that's a lot to put on them, and maybe they won't have the right answers for you, because you know what? It's not their job, actually, to be able to solve your problems. But a therapist, that is their job, and that's why I highly recommend it. Meeting with a therapist to work on your mental health is just as helpful as hiring a personal trainer to work on your physical health, and the positive impact can can be just as life-changing. Talkspace makes it possible to speak with a licensed therapist right from your phone, tablet, or computer. And unlike traditional therapy, you can message your therapist anytime via text, video, or voice, and it's 100% secure and stigma-free, the way therapy should be. And it's all the benefits of therapy without the hassle of setting appointments and waiting a week or more between conversations.
Yeah, just
if you've
say
wondered
Hindu
about therapy
honest.
but aren't sure where to start,
I mean, like, I know, Lebanese. I love my country. I love the branding. I love the marketing. I love what it says on the can. But I'm not convinced that that's what it is. I'm not convinced it's even what it could be, maybe in my lifetime. So it's just very disappointing. And I don't know. It's so difficult to deal with in adulthood, especially with the traveling, you know, like I think the traveling is just a huge part of it where I get sick of it. Like why no offense to Denmark, but why does your dumpy little fucking Viking country get all this shit that we don't get? Like, we're one of the most powerful countries in the entire world, and we don't get any of this shit. And we just let people fucking be homeless and poor and starve and fucking, you know, like, people have it so fucking good in Denmark. Like, I don't know, bro. And I get that there are macro and microeconomic reasons. And, well, Booksmarts, you know, Denmark is a very, you know, it has a different history. And, you know, there's only so many people. And it only covers this much land. And the United States is a very wide place and very diverse. And states' rights. And we have a history that gets in the way of us enacting large change quickly. And that's the way the founders designed the document, was to stop the tyranny of the majority, to do this and that. Like, I get it, but like at the same time, I would roll the dice on having it a different way, quite honestly, because we seem to just keep running into these same problems with stupid shit. Strong social democratic tradition. Yeah, maybe we crush that shit. And every time it's ever gotten to be like very, very powerful, there have been just crazy moments where the government shuts it down, like with Reagan and the fucking air traffic controllers that went on strike. He just crushed it, and then it's done, and then no more of that ever. So I don't know. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I don't have solutions, so it's incredibly frustrating, and I don't want to spend the time. Does it really matter what the reason is if the outcome is bad? I don't know, bro. It does, because you need to evaluate whether the outcome for the new solution that you have would be worse. So it is important. It's just, you know, I have a whole lot of steam and no good answers to how things would change in a way that would be better. So I don't know, bro. I don't know, bruh. And no, I don't think Red Scare is the only reason. Anywho.
You need to check out Talkspace. At Talkspace, your privacy and security are their #1 priority. The app puts you in a private room with just you and your therapist. You send messages 24/7 and get replies throughout the day. No need to wait for a weekly appointment. So whether you struggle with anxiety, depression, self-doubt, or anything else, Talkspace gives you access to the help you need to move forward. Facing those obstacles isn't easy, and you don't win a prize for doing it alone. So join Talkspace today and start moving forward with a single message. Just visit Talkspace.com and get $100 off your first month when you use promo code OPENING at sign up. That's $100 off at Talkspace.com, promo code OPENING. Opening Arguments is brought to you by Aura. Here's a scary stat. Every 10 seconds, someone becomes a victim of fraud or identity theft. What's worse, 23% of those people don't get their money back after the attack. If you think it could never happen to you, you could be their next target. But Aura can help. Aura provides digital security protection to keep your online finances, personal information, and tech safe from online threats. It's all-in-one protection from identity theft, financial fraud, malware, scam sites, and so much more. With Aura, you'll get alerted to fraud and threats fast, like if your online accounts or passwords were leaked, or if someone tries to open a bank account in your name. It's easy to set up, and all plans come with $1 million in identity theft insurance to help recover your stolen funds, and experienced US-based customer support that's got your back. Aura also has an online dashboard that's easy to use and alerts sent straight to your phone. Aura keeps you in control and guides you through solving any issues. So for a limited time, Aura is offering our listeners up to 40% off plans when you visit.
I'm not skipping ads, because when I try to skip the ads, it refreshes the whole page. Not happening. Sorry, buddy. Sit through it. They deserve it.
Aura.com/opening. Go to aura.com/opening to get complete protection and savings of up to 40%. That's AURA.com/opening.
I've hinted a little bit at the sort of where the rubber meets the road. Here's what will happen when this decision, if this decision overrules Roe versus Wade. 8 states have laws on the books prohibiting abortion. Those laws are unenforced because of Roe versus Wade. They will presumably become enforceable again the second that this case is decided. Those are Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Michigan, Mississippi, Oklahoma, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. 9 more, again, there's 3 more in overlap, but 9 more states that don't have other statutes have springing statutes like they have in Mississippi, right? So, Mississippi has triply covered its anti-choice barriers here, but 9 more states distinctly have springing statutes. Idaho, Kentucky, Louisiana, Missouri, North Dakota, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, and Utah. 2 more have passed laws, and again, 7 more states, because this was a model ALEC legislation, but 2 more distinct states have passed statutes, quote, expressing the intent to restrict the right to legal abortion to the maximum extent permitted by the Supreme Court. Okay, so we will regulate as much as the Supreme Court says we can. So that becomes 100% when this decision comes down. Those states are Kansas and Ohio. And 3 more states, again with some overlap, have anti-abortion statutes that have been enjoined by court order because of Roe as unconstitutional, that you could just go back to court and get those injunctions lifted. Georgia, Iowa, South Carolina. That is 22 states where if you're pregnant, you can be immediately charged with a crime if you seek an abortion after this decision comes down. Thomas, how many states...
The streaming your primary revenue stream? Yep.
Do you think go the other way?
Well, that's a tricky question because I don't know. It may be looked at as redundant in some ways, so I don't know. 10?
So it's a split trick question. The small answer is 3. Oregon, Vermont, and the District of Columbia are the only 3 jurisdictions that protect abortion throughout the pregnancy. 12 more protect it pre-viability, that is, to the extent of Casey. California, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Nevada, New York, Rhode Island, and Washington. That leaves states like Colorado, Minnesota, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Wisconsin, reliably deep blue Democratic states, all of them, with no protection whatsoever. It leaves purple state. Again, Michigan has a pre-existing abortion ban. So do Arizona and Georgia, which were purple states in the 2020 election. And North Carolina has no similar protection. So these are, if you want to talk about the will of the public, you would have absolutely no protection in a lot of states where an awful lot of Biden voters live. And as you point out, you got money. Yeah, those people will still get abortions just fine, because abortion is legal in Canada, basically all of Europe and Asia. So yeah, we're about to have more restrictive abortion laws than Russia and the former Soviet bloc. That's freedom, America.
Oh, do you want to hear, just for fun, cheers up, John Roberts getting publicly owned despite being probably against socialism, as the meme goes all the time?
Yes.
About that very topic here, just for fun.
It is the standard that the vast majority of other countries have. When you get to the viability standard, we share that standard with the People's Republic of China and North Korea. And I don't think you have to be in favor of looking to international.
Thanks. Love you, Book. Thanks. I love you too, random person in the chat. Archie with the Prime subscription. You can connect your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, and then you get a free subscription every month. That helps me. That's like $2.50. That adds up, Holmes. So I do appreciate that, Archie. Random person, shake my head. Well, I try not to read the names because I don't want to judge you guys. Like, I do my best to not pay attention to whether you're Twitch or YouTube and not pay attention to what your name is so that I can just treat you guys more equally. But yeah, I know who you are, Saint. Yeah, congratulations, bro. I do know who you are. Yes, I do.
Law to set our constitutional standards, to be concerned if those are your...
My sub notification didn't go off? Yeah, it did. I heard the noise. It definitely did. So, but the text won't. But I don't see any text on your sub.
Share that particular time period.
I think there's 2 questions there, Your Honor, if I may. First, that is not correct about international law. In fact, the majority of countries that permit legal access to abortion allow access right up until viability, even if they have nominal...
See, this is another thing that, like, I misunderstood when it first happened, that I'm happy, like, we listened to this and then we get it.
lines earlier. So, for example, Canada, Great Britain, and most of Europe allows access to abortion right up until viability, and it also doesn't have the same barriers in place.
What do you mean, even if they have nominal lines earlier?
Some countries, Your Honor, have a nominal line of 12 weeks or 18 weeks, but they permit legal access to abortion after that point for broad social reasons, health reasons, socioeconomic reasons. So their regimes really aren't comparable, and they also don't have the same types of barriers that we have here. So if the court were to move the line substantially backwards, and 15 weeks is 9 weeks before viability, Your Honor, it's quite a bit backwards, it may need to reconsider the rules around regulations, because if it's cutting the time period to obtain an abortion roughly in half, then those barriers are going to be much more important.
Oh, boy. I love that, though. That's my favorite. Yeah, a couple things. First, you're totally full of shit with what you just said.
That is masterful. I mean, it is very, very difficult to tell a Supreme Court justice, to tell the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And again, John Roberts, no dummy, right? To tell him, that's just not true as a matter of law.
No dummy, but they are steeped in some of them. And we didn't really have time to talk about Thomas as well, but some of them seem to be steeped in the really silly, sophomoric right-wing arguments about abortion. So sure, no dummy, but
Clarence Thomas is, but
yeah, he tried. I guess we're out of time, but I would play it. But his whole thing, I think 3 times, if I remember correctly, Andrew, was but what about this gotcha? Essentially like the watchmaker argument for religion debates or something. Hold on, but what if? How could it be? Justice Thomas says over and over. How could it be that we say a woman who's pregnant can't do coke for fear of risking, the baby's health? How could we say that if we can say that the woman could also just kill that baby, with abortion? And several times, these very brilliant interlocutors had to be like, well, that's a regulation, and you've said in the past that the court, it's consistent. There's a million ways to respond, but for one, we've already said, it's okay to regulate. Casey says it's okay to regulate, just not ban. And 2, I think the obvious thing is it's a balancing of interests, as we've talked about. The state has an interest in, I guess, protecting life, if you want to say that, and the pregnant person has an interest in bodily autonomy, and you could make the argument that, the interest flips depending on where we are and what we're talking about. And the interest in doing an illegal drug, I would think, would be an easy one to say, well, I'm going to balance that against the state's interest in the unborn life and let the state come out on top in that instance, right? And they answered this perfectly 2 to 3 times. Probably 2, I guess, because there's 2 people. This was the senior director for the Center of Reproductive Rights, Julie Reichelman, who was just talking earlier. 2 very good answers to that question, and Thomas was still not satisfied.
Yeah, that's because Clarence Thomas does not view Casey the way the rest of the legal world does, which was a radical and dramatic restriction of the right to an abortion in this country, right? The test that Casey set up was, does it constitute an undue burden pre-viability? Post-viability, anything is fair game. Pre-viability, now the question is it an undue burden? And the last 30 years have been spent by right-wing courts arguing that, eliminating, zoning regulations that mean there are only 7 abortion clinics in the entire state of Texas. Yeah. That's not really, that's a burden, but that burden isn't undue.
What is the burden and how much of it is undue, to badly paraphrase or whatever? If we're not mad enough, I got to play the most enraging quote.
I want you to play it, but I want to compliment you first, though, that that is the answer to that question, right? Which is, that's not an undue burden under 100 years worth of history and tradition.
I think I was trying to say, what is a burden and how much of it are we undue?
I love it.
I love making really niche legal jokes that I don't know if anyone finds funny, but if they do, it's like one person in my perfect Venn diagram. Okay, are you ready to... Everybody, I would suggest get all the sharp objects out of your immediate reach.
Ms. Rickelman, I have a question about the safe haven laws. So petitioner points out that in all 50 states, you can terminate parental rights by relinquishing a child after abortion, and I think the shortest period might have been 48 hours, if I'm remembering the data correctly. So it seems to me, seen in that light, both Roe and Casey emphasize the burdens of parenting. And insofar as you and many of your amici focus on the ways in which the forced parenting, forced motherhood would hinder women's access to the workplace and to equal opportunities. It's also focused on the consequences of parenting and the obligations of motherhood that flow from pregnancy. Why don't the safe haven laws take care of that problem? It seems to me that it focuses the burden much more narrowly. There is, without question, an infringement on bodily autonomy, which we have in other contexts like vaccines. However, it doesn't seem to me to follow that pregnancy and then parenthood are all part of the same burden. And so it seems to me that the choice more focused would be between, say, the ability to get an abortion at 23 weeks or the state requiring the woman to go 15, 16 weeks more and then terminate parental rights at the conclusion. Why didn't you address the safe haven laws and why don't they matter?
We could do a whole nother episode on the stupidity of this one question, Andrew. I mean, it's all tied in. First off, yes, I forgot. There are two things to yell about here. One is, hey, doesn't this solve the problem? The fact that we allow, I guess, people to like drop off their infant at the fire station, that solves the burden here of forced birth. It's okay. It's a tie, Andrew. I forced someone to give birth to a child through their body. Like one of the most traumatic things. By the way, my sister just had a really traumatic, actually just gave birth to a child today. Congrats to my sister. Yeah. Very traumatic. She was making every effort to avoid a C-section because she had to have one for her first child. She made every effort to avoid it, but fate decided that wasn't going to happen. The baby was sunny side up or whatever they say. Really traumatic. A danger to your health. A major, major thing. I know I don't need to tell anyone this, but like, come on. A major thing. Not just that, imagine the emotional toll of like, oh, I'm giving birth to a child as who knows, of what, a 17-year-old? It could be anybody if the law were this way. It's okay though, because I can drop my infant that I just gave birth to, that I've had to feed from my body possibly. I can drop them into a box at a fire station. It's okay. Water under the bridge, Andrew. It's all fine. I'll go off to college now. Everything will be fine in Amy Coney Barrett's world. That's feminism. You can have it all.
So I want to say a couple of things here. The first is, again, this has been an angry and yelly episode for both of us, and rightfully so. But it underscores the lack of sarcasm when you introduced us with the version of the United States as The Handmaid's Tale. A Supreme Court justice argued, why isn't it part of your brief that the United States can constitutionally demand that pregnant individuals forcibly give birth throughout the entirety of term? And if that isn't the plot of The Handmaid's Tale, then I've read the wrong book and watched the wrong show. So, yeah, I mean, it's all credit in the world to Julie Reichelman for not just staring dumbfoundedly at Amy Coney Barrett and saying, are you kidding me? She did say the risks of giving birth are alarmingly high in Mississippi, 75 times more dangerous to give birth than to have a pre-viability abortion.
Why don't we just play your answer? It was really good, and it's not that long.
Don't matter for a couple of reasons, Your Honor. First, even if some of those laws are new since Casey, the idea that a woman could place a child up for adoption has, of course, been true since Roe. So it's a consideration that the court already had before it when it decided those cases and adhered to the viability line. But in addition, we don't just focus on the burdens of parenting, and neither did Roe and Casey. Instead, pregnancy itself is unique. It imposes unique physical demands and risk on women, and in fact has impact on all of their lives and their ability to care for other children, other family members, on their ability to work. And in particular, in Mississippi, those risks are alarmingly high. It's 75 times more dangerous to give birth in Mississippi than it is to have a pre-viability abortion, and those risks are disproportionately threatening the lives of women of color.
A brilliant answer, and nobody, I think because it was truly too stupid to even address, I don't think anybody ever picked up the vaccination thread, but just in case, I'm going to try not to yell, Andrew. I'll try really hard. Likening forcing someone to go through 9+ months of pregnancy and to have a child, to give birth to a child, putting that in anywhere in the same ballpark as vaccination in terms of quote unquote bodily autonomy. I mean, this is the kind of stupid crap that I would think any lawyer would be ashamed to make this comparison. I mean, obviously, there are differences in terms of degree. Andrew, if I make you stop at a stop sign, I have violated your bodily autonomy. I've stopped your movement. You're not able to move your body past the stop sign for temporarily. That's the same as forcing 9 months of pregnancy and giving birth. The same, apparently. A little prick in your shoulder that gives you life-saving medicine. Same burden. Body violated. That all goes in the same exact heading of violating your bodily autonomy. I cannot believe she would say that. Well, okay, I can believe she would say that, but
Is it not an issue of bodily autonomy? Here's the problem I have with these two, is they're very much so in their own political-ish. Yeah, I mean, technically it would be, but the problem that they have is in scale, right? Obviously, it's scale and context. Me asking you to get a vaccine that has been tested and that has been proven to help with the thing that it's meant to help with and to hurt so few people is very different than this uber dangerous procedure of birth that can go wrong in all these different ways and has like actual whole digit percentages of people that die from it. Like they're so different in scale and in context that's why it is egregious to compare the two things. Sure, the right might be similar or the violation might be similar, but the problem is in the comparison there between these two things that are just vastly different from one another. But if you're a pro-abortion person, then that's ignoring and doesn't take into account the guaranteed death of the baby that will always happen. And so, you know, like, I don't know. One thing I learned when I was in Poland, sorry, Polish people, is it sure does suck when religious people are in control of your entire country. So I just worry that religious people have these ideas about abortion and stuff, and it is guiding the entire conversation that we have about it. And I'm getting a little bit sick of it because I'm not bought into their religious ideas. And so it's just very difficult for me to deal with that we have to cater so much to their beliefs, but they're a huge part of the country, you know. And if I was in a Muslim country, we'd have to deal with Islam and what Islam believes. And, you know, it's just an artifact of the past that we're still having to deal with, but it's just annoying. God, dude, can I find the exit in here? Holy shite. This is not going good for me this round. I really thought we would find the exit here a lot sooner.
Can't believe a lawyer would make that argument.
It is preposterous that we are in a situation where that argument is being made from the most prestigious bench in this country. The argument is sophomoric and stupid and so embarrassingly bad that not even Clarence Thomas tries to bail her out on this. But at the same time, this is what, they said on Twitter, Amy Coney Barrett was grown in a test tube and genetically engineered for the purpose of overturning Roe versus Wade. That's why she's here. It literally is her sole criterion for why she was added to the bench. And so we shouldn't be surprised. I read her past jurisprudence. I read her positions. I have seen what her extreme cult sect of Catholicism believes about condoms, about the IUD. And so, you know, none of this is surprising from an Amy Coney Barrett perspective. It is surprising that somebody with that level of incompetence is on the Supreme Court.
Seems so barbaric to make women go through labor and shit because they could just give up parental rights later. The difficult thing about all of this is it's all crazy until you think that that is a real person in there. Until you believe that that is a real person with all of a person's rights and all of a person's considerations and whatever, and then it's not. And then it's all of a sudden not. And then it's all of a sudden not a big deal. In my opinion, sure, it still sucks. Sure, it's still a big thing to have to give birth and whatever. But when you actually believe that's dead ass a full fucking person in there, then it's very, very, very different. And I always try to keep that in the back of my mind as like an anchoring thing to keep one foot in this other yard of oh, well, if you think that's a person though, it's so very, very different. It fundamentally changes the game of everything, you know? I know I'm trying to meet the other side with seeing the fetus as a living person. It's hard to bridge the gap. I get you, Kool-Aid, you know? And that's kind of part of the problem. Is at some point when there is a gap this huge between the religious minority and the general majority of the population, at what point do we look at that and we go, well, you have a radical idea about how things work that the majority of people don't have, and that the majority of people who are not religious don't have. But we have to protect the minorities in the country, and there's a minority of people who believe in this thing, and blah, 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 blah. It's just such a tough issue. That's why I don't like commenting on it. I don't agree with them, but if you don't take their concerns into consideration, any conversation you have, yeah, exactly. I know. And that's why it's such a problem. It's so easy to just write them off. And it's so tempting. That is the call of the void. That is the sirens on the fucking shoreline that is calling my boat to the fucking rocky harbor it's just like, just don't care about them. It's stupid. They believe in something stupid. Don't give them consideration. If you just don't try to give them consideration, it becomes so easy. Who cares? They're a religious minority. Whatever. That call of the void is just always there for topics like these because it makes it so easy. I'm just not willing to make that jump the way other people so willingly are, because those same people that make that jump also tend to make that jump for other shit. I don't care. They just have different political ideas. I don't care. They just have different religious ideas. I don't care. They just have different social ideas. I don't care. They just, and they write everybody off. And it's a slippery slope, I feel like, especially when you're working in a democracy. Okay, we're going to fucking run it down mid, boys. We are. Because I'm not making any productive shit out of what I got, right? Like, up here, I have 1, 2... No, okay, this is definitely not worth. All right, so I'm going to run her back to go turn this on, or run him back to go turn this on, and then we'll run it. It seems like that's what these guys are doing, like actively laughing at these people. Yeah, and I'm not willing to do that, right? Like, I see what they're doing, and that's why, like, I gave the caveat at the beginning that these are people who are very much so entrenched in their position of things, and they're going to speak at a level where if you're pro-abortion, this isn't going to be the stream for you because we're going to have to listen to it and whatever. But yeah, I mean, they're doing that, and I'm not willing to do that. So that insofar as that is concerned, we have a difference of opinion. Okay, let me think of what to do here. So I'm going to move her here. Actually, wait, what should I do? I'll keep her there. I'll move her here. I'll get him to run this. Okay. I don't know how many rooms are going to open.
But that sort of gets back to the overarching theme of the episode.
To say, I know we're out of time. To say nothing, by the way, of the fact that, like, I wish Justice Thomas would have started every one of his questions with, hey, by the way, I sexually harassed, like, everyone in my workplace, but I get to decide the women's rights case for the entire country. Just FYI, just reminding everyone of that. And then Kavanaugh, too, like, possibly committed a sexual assault, also gets to be part of deciding reproductive rights for the entire country. It's outrageous. Andrew, we could have gone on forever on these oral arguments. There's so much that still we didn't even talk about. But I think we covered a lot here. And again, just to reemphasize your prediction, we have to wait till late June or so, right, to have our rights taken away. Yeah,
as will happen with every term. John Roberts is going to delay as long as possible the verdict in this case because he's well aware of the political implications. And all I can say is, if you're as mad as we are,
do everything you can to elect Democrats in office. It's literally the only thing.
That's the only thing you can do. Yep. Every other thing that you can do is either, ineffectual or worthless, right? Like, it will not help to write us emails, to comment on message boards, to do internet petitions, what will help is sending money to, donating time to, and voting for Democratic candidates.
But Andrew, what are you, just a partisan hack for Democrats? Yes, literally, yes. It's the only, yes, I'm a partisan hack for electing the only people who are possibly ever going to stand in the way of Amy Coney Barrett deciding that the entire country has to be, if they're pregnant, has to be forced to carry out that pregnancy because, you could drop the baby off at a fire station. So it's a tie. So it's even. Yes, I am a partisan hack for the party that's the opposite of that. I don't give a shit about your bad examples of bad Democrats. Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, they're bad Democrats. Cool. Let's elect Democrats. The only answer to bad science is good science. It's the same thing. The only answer to the people you don't like who are Democrats who might get in office because we're trying to elect Democrats is, okay, good, primary them with better Democrats. That's the only option. The option isn't, okay, allow Republicans to take control and to put Coney's Barrett's in the highest court in the land. That's just not a viable solution to the problem. It's not. Oh my God. Sorry. All right. Happy news. We promised happy news, Andrew. We're going to squeeze this. This is a long edit, but I don't care. We'll squeeze it in.
Two things that are just making all of this worthwhile and help me smile and improve my mood after that. And the really one thing, and that is our amazing listeners and fans. So the first is there's a thing going around I think it's a Spotify that's like Spotify. Shows you a graph of your top 5 podcasts. And if you're on social media, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, and OA is your top podcast, send that to us. We'll retweet you at it makes my day. And the number of people who have listened to every minute of every episode of the 93 that we've put out this year. I love you guys for it. The second, you saw that, and I wish I could just disseminate that there. We have our first listener opening arguments tattoo. Absolutely amazing. She runs our live shows. Teresa Gomez, you know her. She runs the OA Wiki. She is absolutely 100% the best. And her forearm tattoo of opening arguments in Ancient Autobot and Ancient Decepticon is just, I sent it. My brother-in-law is a big tattoo guy. He's full sleeved. He's got a lot of tattoos. That's his happy place. And I sent it to him and was like, we got one. So
unbelievable. Yeah.
Oh,
it's so cool. It's a great tattoo as well. Go in the Facebook group, everybody. Yodel Mountain Facebook group if you'd like to be able to see pictures of Teresa's fantastic tattoo, including some Breath of the Wild integration into that tattoo as well, which I love that game so much. I would almost get a tattoo involving that game because it's so good.
Wow.
It's fantastic.
I haven't played it, so I don't.
That's okay. The reason we all listen to you, Andrew, is because you're the kind of person who doesn't have time to spend countless hours playing Breath of the Wild. You're in there analyzing documents and giving us the actual information on that. But yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Teresa. A little bit of good news to cheer us up a little bit.
Oh, no associate of this firm has ever failed the bar exam.
No kidding.
And now it's time for Thomas Takes the Bar Exam. Maybe the fact that I listened to hours of oral arguments, maybe it will have improved my legal knowledge. Well, no, or maybe it got worse. I don't know. It could go either way.
Yeah, osmosis is a powerful thing. But,
yeah, you don't want to osmose Justice Alito. That's bad for you.
All right, Thomas. A man was building a home on a vacant piece of land. The man wanted to remove tree roots that stretched from a tree stump in the neighbor's yard to his own yard. The man decided to dig beneath the neighbor's yard and remove the tree roots. The digging caused no impact on the neighbor's land and did not interfere with the neighbor's use or enjoyment of his land. Nevertheless, the neighbor sued the man for trespass. Who is likely to prevail? A, the man, because his decision to remove tree stump roots was reasonable. B, the man, because he did not interfere with the use and enjoyment of the neighbor's property. C, the neighbor, because the man intentionally entered the neighbor's property without permission. Or D, the neighbor, because the man did not give reasonable notice to the neighbor of his intent to dig up the tree roots.
We did have that one a while ago that was like it was really tricky about the trees and the trimming or whatever, cutting them down, and the fact that the property hadn't been used yet so I thought I was going down that road, but I guess not. Building a home on a vacant piece of land, he wanted to remove tree roots that...
And for the context, in case you've missed it, so they're taking a question from the bar exam or whatever, and the guy who is not the lawyer is the one who needs to answer the question.
Stretched from a tree stump in the neighbor's yard to his own yard. Okay. But it says the man decided to dig beneath the neighbor's yard and remove the tree roots. I don't really understand that. So the tree roots stretch to his yard. I don't get why he didn't just remove those ones. I don't understand. It sounded like it was they're reaching into my yard, so I'll remove those kind of at the property line. But I guess it's saying he decided to dig beneath the neighbor's yard. So he kind of tunneled a little bit and removed them more, I guess. So the digging caused no impact, and it didn't interfere with the neighbor's use or enjoyment of his land. Nevertheless, the neighbor sued for trespass. Well, let's see. Just going off of what feels reasonable, I think that if we're talking about trespass, this strikes me as, just thinking prima facie, this seems trespassy. I mean, you did something to your neighbor's yard without permission. Seems, inarguably, you dug under your neighbor's yard. So it seems trespassy to me, I think. So that's what I'm leaning toward, and we'll see. So A, who will prevail? So I'd say the man, because his decision to remove the tree stump roots was reasonable. I'm going to eliminate that. If it's that, then I'm whatever. I just don't think that's going to be it. It could be, I guess, but who decides what's reasonable to remove the roots? It doesn't, it could be reasonable, could be not. I don't know. Maybe, whatever. So I'm eliminating it. I mean, just not going with that one. B, the man, because he did not interfere with the use and enjoyment of the neighbor's property. So I think that's actually the language for something else, if I remember right. I think. I think that's not trespass. I don't think that's... Because, the problem with trespassing is not that you interfere with the use and enjoyment, I don't think. I think the use and enjoyment has been cases where it's you're dumping toxic sludge and it's flowing down into your neighbor's yard kind of thing. Or stuff like that. There's a cloud of smoke coming out of your property and it's making... And I don't think that's... Shoot, or is that trespass? Man, I thought that was some other tort, but maybe it is trespass. So it could be B, but I don't know. C, the neighbor, because the man intentionally entered the neighbor's property without permission. Okay, I like that because it's just clean cut. Yes, trespass, done. D, the neighbor, because the man did not give reasonable notice to the neighbor of his intent to dig up the tree roots. That's hard. It'd be hard to say between C and D what the problem is there. Nah, I don't think it's D because... I'm going to eliminate D. Because giving notice that would imply that it's totally fine to do it. You don't need permission. You just have to give notice to your neighbor, and that doesn't seem right. Like, oh, hi, let me just give you notice that I'm going to come trespass onto your land. There's nothing in there about, like, the consent of the neighbor, I don't think, or the permission, as is with C. So I'm eliminating D. I think that's an attractive distractor. I'm between B and C. So B, because he did not interfere with the use and enjoyment of the neighbor's property. And it says in the facts, it's not like we can say, oh, but what if the tree falls down and whatever. It says in the fact pattern that digging caused no impact on the neighbor's land. Or C, the neighbor, because the man intentionally entered the neighbor's property without permission. I'm going to go with C. You know, I just think that, you know, that's a decision that I think you need permission to do. I don't think you can just take out some roots on someone else's land. I won't be at all surprised if there's some 13th century Saxony tree law, you know, like tree root law that makes this B. I think it easily could be B, but I'm going with C. Final answer.
I'm an expert in tree law. It's no bird law, but you know. All right. Well, if you want to play along with Thomas, you know how to do that. Just share out this episode on social media. Include the hashtag T3BE. Include your guests, your reasons. Therefore, we will pick a winner and shower that winner with never-ending fame and fortune. Fame and fortune not guaranteed.
And thank you.
And now it's time to thank our new patrons at patreon.com/law. Hope you're enjoying the goodies, the ad-free episodes, the Q&A. By the way, that was a ton of fun. Great Q&A. That's on the feed. The audio's on the feed. It's also on our YouTube channel for normies. But for patrons, I put that high-quality audio in the feed. And the voting on the questions and the asking the questions is something only patrons can do. So I hope you enjoyed it. And Andrew, we're coming up. A couple weeks, we'll have another Lot Awful movies for you. So that's all great reasons to pledge over on patreon.com/law. Let's thank the new pledgeors. And I'll start us off. Thank you to Daniel Thomas, Tane A.H., Sarah Knudsen, Max Ryberchick, Lisa Billiou. I should have given you these ones. These are some tough ones. Marion Magda, and Melanie Harari. Your turn.
Thank you to Caleb Nichols, to Katrin Allen, Zach Bange, Sean A. Watson, Dr. Bitch, the Bitch Doctor. Love that. Hey, we will read it. And Kate Kiarsis. Thank you all so much for supporting the show.
And that's our show. Oh, boy. Apologize to anyone who's not a fan of yelling, but I feel like it's justified when the court is going to strike down a 50-year-old precedent guaranteeing
But Thomas, you don't understand. It was wrongly decided.
Yeah, okay, so you're allowed to do that. This is a tough one. This is one of those tough ones, Andrew, in the pantheon of our tough one episodes. This is a particularly tough one. Up there with after Trump was elected and that sort of thing. This is the reason.
And again, a reminder, they don't have access to that majority opinion brief draft that we do. So all of these assumptions are made just from the oral arguments and the written briefs, and having access to the wait, this is not looking good. Let me think. Okay, this might not be good for us. Anyhow.
We were so upset when Trump was elected. One of the many reasons. So maybe consider that in the future and do everything you can to, as I've said before, from Ezra Klein, be a moral contagion for good. You know, like it's not just about your vote. It's about your attitude you're putting into the world. And if the attitude you're putting into the world is constantly undermining Democrats, even though it might be for what you think are legitimate reasons, maybe the end result of what you're doing is not a good. Maybe it's not a good thing. Maybe it's not overall. It's a bad thing for the world. Consider that, please.
I just want to say 15 seconds because I get this question and we're going to get emails from this episode. And people say, well, isn't it the Trump supporters' fault? Yes, of course it is. The fact that 46% of the country is happy voting for an unreconstructed race.
Ooh, Vosh argument? I mean, you're going to... One thing I like that we do on this stream, especially with the podcasts I share with you, because I think we've listened to Dan Carlin on here as well, is give you a diversity of opinions so you can get an idea. Oh, that sounds like a Vosh argument. No, that's like an argument that exists independent of Vosh, but yes, it exists. It's out there, you know. I think after all the lefty stuff we've been listening to, I need to feed y'all some Dan Carlin shit next. Maybe I'll make us listen to Dan Carlin on the topic of maybe infringements on personal rights might be an interesting thing for you guys to listen to, but
just incompetent buffoon ex-game show host, you know, I don't know how much more clear we can make it. It's their fault.
Also, Watsaku, I am reading all of your stuff, by the way. I'm not reading it out loud. I'm sure everybody else has the time and patience to read it. Dan Carlin has one on abortion. Oh, wait, that might be good. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. You know who doesn't listen to our show? Trumpers. Yeah. So the people that we can influence are people like you. That is you, Mr. On the Left, and like us, kind of annoyed that Joe Biden didn't flex his hands and, wrap some knuckles and challenge Joe Manchin to a duel and repeal the filibuster and pack the Supreme Court? Yes, we're with you. We're disappointed. The question is, what do? I love the Ezra Klein moral contagion. Like, what we're trying to do is do the very best we can to get this country back on the right track. So, yeah, never think for a second that we think you, Mr. 2016 Jill Stein voter, are the source of the problem. You're not. The question is, how do you help us fight the problem? And that's what we're trying to do.
All right. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
I move for a bad court thingy.
You mean a mistrial?
Yeah, that's why you're the judge and I'm the law-talking guy.
This has been Opening Arguments with Andrew and Thomas. If you love the show and want to support future episodes, please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/law. If you can't support us financially, it will be a big help if you leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever podcast delivery vehicle you use. And be sure to tell all your friends about us. For questions, suggestions, and complaints, email us at openarguments@gmail.com. The show notes and links are on our website at www.openargs.com. Be sure to join the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/yodelmountain and follow us on Twitter at OpenArgs. This podcast is a production of Open Arguments Media LLC, all rights reserved. It is produced with the assistance of transcriptionist Heather Loveridge, production assistant Ashley Smith, and additional contributions from Morgan Stringer and Doug Smith. Special thanks to Teresa Gomez, who runs our live shows and heads up the OA Wiki. Follow at OA Wiki on Twitter. Additional thanks to the moderators of the Opening Arguments Facebook community: Emily Waters, Alicia Cook, Eric Brewer, Natalie Newell, Ryan Ziegenhagen, and Teresa. And finally, thanks to Thomas Smith, who edits the show and created the fabulous theme music, which was used with permission.
There you go. There you go. It is 4:25. Soon enough, my dinner event will be happening at the house. I'll stay on for a little bit to hang out with you guys and read some of your opinions and have a back and forth on it. So if you want to talk about that, we definitely can. I'll stay on for a bit longer, probably until maybe the top of the hour. I think that'll be good. And yeah, if you guys want to chit chat about that or anything else that we've been covering lately, I'd be happy to. And here's another thing we'll do. If anybody has a huge disagreement with me about something that we've covered, after all, we have been covering political topics, and it's entirely possible that you could have some problem with something that I've said, I'm happy to do a little impromptu What's Your Problem? Which, in case you didn't know, is a bit of a new segment where I bring you on to briefly figure out what's your problem and see if I can solve it as quickly as possible through negotiation and rhetoric and whatever else. So if you'd be interested in that, we could do that. Where's Bookie at right now? I am in Copenhagen, Denmark, and we're going to have a nice little dinner outing between my host and a streamer friend tonight, so that'll be nice. It's just a matter of waiting until later today, and then that'll happen. So I didn't have a lot of time to stream today, but I really wanted to get out of the way the one thing that I wanted to cover, which was this podcast. It'll force me to go this way. Okay, good to know. Yeah, I wanted to get that out of the way and talk about it and whatever. So that's why we are where we are right now. No mood stream today, Sanj. Did he not stream? Is he supposed to stream? I wonder why not. I saw that Steven and Melina looked like they were with Amaranth. That was kind of cool to see. Don't know if anybody else caught that. If you did Steven show up on Amaranth's stream, or was it just Melina hanging out with her? Kind of be interested to know, maybe. Oh, mama. I'm trying to really speed run this one. What is this game? This game is Dungeon of the Endless. They're actually coming out, the company that made this, with a new game that should be some kind of like roguelite thingamabobber. So that will be interesting. I'm also in talks with the company to maybe do some promotional stuff. I'm going to kind of wait on promoting their game until I see if we can reach a deal about some kind of paid promotion, but I would be happy to. I mean, I hear nothing but good things about the other games they make, and I certainly love Dungeon of the Endless, so I'd be happy to do that. He streamed last night from home. Oh, okay. I think Steve is in a different place. I think Steve was in Texas. Okay. You watched Melina's stream? Nice, Izul. Hope that doesn't out you for anything bad. Steven leaves for Tennessee today. Is he doing some kind of political event? They meet up in Tennessee today. Gotcha. What's going on in Tennessee? Anybody have the deets? The deets on that? Isn't the Melina another Melina? No, I thought it was the proper Melina. Steven's Melina that was in Amaranth's stream. No? He has a debate with Elijah Schaefer. Who the fuck is Elijah Schaefer? I have no idea who that is. That did not help me understand. Again, I don't really watch a ton of Destiny content, so I would not be... Another better discourse, I think. Okay. But it sounds like he has a 1v1 with whoever this Elijah Schaefer person is. He is a Nazi Amish person. Okay. I think. Okay. Well, it's quite a specific thing to think. It is quite a specific belief. Hey, he's some Nazi Amish guy, I think. Like, what? Jesus Christ. Nazi Amish guy. Okay. Kind of nutty, but all right. To be clear, that is a joke about his name. I don't believe that. Okay, good to be clear, because I had no idea that you were joking there. I cannot read between the lines on that one. After all, I have no sense of who this person is, so if you tell me Nazi Amish guy, I've seen crazier things. I'll just take your word for it. It's the guy from Blaze TV. You know, it's that guy from that fucking 90s movie. I don't know what the fuck Blaze TV is. Pretend that I'm your mom. Pretend that I won't know any of the stuff that you're talking about, because I don't know any of that. I don't know. That doesn't help me at all. Some right-wing guy that hates BLM. There we go. There's a description I can understand with acronyms I can understand. Okay. Some right-wing guy that hates BLM. Gotcha. Gotcha. Mommy Booksmarts. Yeah, just think I'm your mom, dude. Just pretend I'm your mom. Listen to me when I tell you to do things. Over-explain things to me because I won't understand them. Oh, geez. He's really not prepared for fighting up here. Okay, have fun. Okay, honey, have fun. Exactly. Okay, have fun. Be safe. It sounds dangerous, but have a good time with that. We definitely need more food. I'll keep him there. Another riot I see. Lol. Seems to be the only language of the left. Jesus Christ. Well, it is the language of the oppressed, and the left certainly has been oppressed as of late. So, maybe, bro. Maybe, bro. We return to our more animalistic tendency. What was the yikers thing that somebody said about that? They compared the BLM rioters to animals or something. They're animals, bro. We can't understand them. They're returning to their fucking monkey urges, bro. Like, what? What are you saying? That's not good at all. What game is this? This is Dungeon of the Endless. It's kind of tower defense mixed with dungeon crawler. So now that I've found this exit, I need to get the crystal to the exit, but I'm not going to do that right now because I think I'm going to milk all the turns to get more resources. Yeah, that's definitely what I'm going to do. Let's go this way. I need science, dude. No worries. Y'all just become more violent and they will just... Hold on. I totally thought... Oops. Oh, shit. That was the wrong pause button. I totally thought that you were like a normal chatter, and now I realize that you're not a normal chatter. Is that the first thing that you said in Twitch chat? Was the... It is. Another riot I see. Lol seems to be the only language of the left. Okay. How random. And when you're like... Where... How do we, like... Hold on. I will say one thing, dude. Is that, like... So you're... Yeah. Oh, hold on. Sir Leviticus, you've come at a really good time in the stream. So I have this segment called What's Your Problem? Where I bring you on the stream, we talk about what's your issue. Because it sounds to me like maybe you have an issue with the left or something. If you want to come on stream and talk about it, use !Discord. because you hopped in here. It's the first thing you're talking about. Seems that you're hot and bothered about it. Exclamation point Discord, jump in any of the voice chats and I'll drag you in and talk to you. We'll give you a platform to talk about whatever it is that you have a problem with. I would be happy to do that. I'm a fairly patient dude. I talk to right-leaning people as much as I do left-leaning people, I would say, especially in private. So if that's something you want to do, cool. If not, then I'm gonna have to time you out because you're like posting paragraphs that you seem upset, and we usually try to rectify that in here because we want to have a chill vibe. Everybody wants to hang out. Oh, that's fine. I'm not worried about it, dude, because the more your side becomes violent, the more people join my side. So be as violent as you want to be, because in the end you lose, because people generally hate violence. Well, if you cared about your side, I think you should defend yourself. I think you should hop into Discord, talk to me, give me some feedback on it. I'm a really open dude. I change my mind on stuff all the time. If I can know more about the left being violent, if I could know more about what the issue is there, I'd love to. However, if you're not willing to do that, you're kind of just spamming randomness in the chat. And it's not going to be a good place for you to do that. So, up to you, bud. Oh, mama. What the hell? Up to you, bro. I'm gonna give you the... I think we've already had at least 3 of those 5 minutes. Set a timer for 2 minutes. I'll give you your 2 minutes and then we'll see if you're able to hop into the Discord. I will check in a bit. Is that the TF2 guy? Yeah, I think maybe. Jesus, chat, chill out. Oh! Oh, I've totally fucked up. Now you've got me distracted. Now I'm losing my game because of you, fella. I'm very, very not happy about that. Oh, well. Well, let's hope that person's in my Discord, because if they're not, that is the end of random chatter number 2006. Well, you're not, so I'm not spending randomness. I am literally having a conversation. No, you're refusing to, because you won't hop in Discord. It's not my fault that you... Nobody said they don't care about violence, brother. I will take... So, my understanding is you're not willing to have a conversation, which unfortunately will be another tally mark in the list of conservative folks that come into my chat and are unwilling to have a conversation. I think it's very unfortunate to be the party that is talking about freedom of speech, to be the party that's talking about having a conversation, to be the party that's talking about, hey, we want to get out there and we want to facilitate discourse, and then you're always unwilling to have that discourse and unwilling to talk. So if that's the case, congratulations. You are not only going to receive a timeout, you're going to receive a ban. You could always counter that ban if you grow a pair of nuts and you decide that you're willing to have a conversation at some point. Go ahead and fill out the unban form and we will bring you back. And then we will talk to you. But otherwise, I'm so sorry, you're gone. Are we on his side? No, not really. I would not say that we're even really on his side here. So that fella kind of just came in here and spouted random nonsense. But hey, that's how it happened. Well, he did with chat. No, he kind of just yelled at the chat. He didn't really have a conversation with the chat. He kind of just preached. Preaching is not a conversation, religious folk. In case he's a religious folk, maybe he needs to hear it. Hi, Book. Can't hang out for long, but wanted to say thanks for the Supreme Court coverage. Been catching up at work. Nice. Well, I'm happy to have assisted you in that. Oh, he's gone. Yeah, he's gone. I banned him. Are you kidding? Don't come into my chat posting paragraphs and talk about having a conversation and you're unwilling to. Sounds like you just roasted a fool, so here's a meter for old time's sake. It's not that high, dude. I just... I'm kind of done letting these people do that in my chat. And if they want to do that, then hop on, talk to me, dude. But if you have some big problem with me and then you're not willing to talk it out, then that's kind of, that's just something for your side, I think. Maybe we can't have him in chat, but he can live in your walls. Monkahum. Yep, he can live in the tumor on the right side of my brain. He can be one of my tumor delusions, bro. He can live up there for as long as he wants. Rent-free. But, yeah. He was a bit aggressive, but otherwise, you only have people that side with your ideas in chat. Yeah, no, I don't think so. Like, I know from reading my Discord and reading my chatters and other people's chats that there are plenty of people in my chat that disagree with me, and I'm fine with that, dude. Like, I'm fine with you disagreeing with me. I'm not okay with you spewing a bunch of nonsense in my chat, them being unwilling to talk, though. If Rally and everybody else can create a culture of Discord or ban, I think I'm gonna have a little bit of that. I think that's important for the political process, bro. I'm gonna be real with you. I also think it's important to learn that freedom of speech, while a federally granted right, is not necessarily something that a private company or person or event grants you. And if you are unwilling to be polite, to be cordial, and to follow the rules of whatever society, community, or private business that you're in, if you decide to wear your nasty, big hobbit feet and touching the ground and sloshing around inside of a jack-in-the-box, they will kick you out. If you decide to show your bare pelt of a fucking chest inside of the Del Taco next door, they will kick you out. If you decide to spew a bunch of nonsense in my chat, then are unwilling to talk about it after hyping up the need to have conversations, you are not welcome and you will be kicked out. And that's what it is, bro. I want to take a dump on my colleague's desk, but these damn liberals want to restrict my freedom of speech. Oh, maybe, bro. Maybe. And it's based on them to do so. Maybe we shouldn't allow people to dump on people's desks. Book learn from the best. IRI-esque bands and rally Discord arenas. Yes, sir. My two very good friends. I've learned quite a bit from them. I don't know why I have this guy way over here, but whatever. Let's go a bit quicker with this. All right, we'll move him into this room, move him back down here, move him here, turn that on. But yeah, no, I think honestly, that's somebody who I feel like is just waiting until I ban them as well, which is a frustrating thing. They're not here to like have a conversation or become a part of a community, which is what I want from my chatters. What they're here to do is upset me to the point where I kick them out. And I'm not even upset with him. That's the best part. It's not that he upset me. It's that he's breaking the rules of the chat and he needs to be gone. I feel no way about it. But I think these people come in here and they just kind of want to test you and push you to ban them. And then they prove some kind of point by getting banned. And maybe they, at the dinner table, brag to their family about how much more tolerant they are than the lefty BLM building burning downer people, I suppose. What's funny is he spouted all that immediately after I was making fun of people saying that black folk who burn buildings down are simply overtaken by their animalistic monkey urges. Like, you know, I'm making fun of like some of the lefty talking points around riots and stuff. So it's like, if anything, he's come into a place where somebody might hear him out on some of the lameness of the left and what they say about things. But he chose to take that opportunity to have an ally to make an enemy out of me. And that's unfortunate, but that's a decision that fella made. So it is what it is, you know. I am looking to build coalitions, but I'm not looking to build coalitions with people who refuse to talk to me. So it is what it is. Is what it is. Okay, this is not a good position for this guy to pee in. Let's get them all down here. I think they're gonna break that. I really hope they don't, though. Oh, they're gonna kill this guy, I think, maybe. Okay, excellent. Excellent. Let me think about this real quick. I have made an oopsie. I should have put that crystal here and then lit this room, but, you know, we all make mistakes. Choosing an enemy over having a second mom feels bad. I guess I'll move him here and move him over here. The exit will probably be in this last door. But yeah, a little bit unfortunate. A little bit unfortunate. If you do it in the bed, you might be able to get away with it. Well, you're going to Amber Heard it, bro. I'm gonna Amber Heard it. Let's see. I'll go this way. Wonderful. There's my exit. Okay. Yikes. Oh, yikes. That's a lot of damage. Oh my goodness. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, Mr. Postman. Shit. Oh, let's get him out. I think he'll be okay. Okay, wonderful. Do I want to open this last door? That is the next question. Choose, I already read that. May as well. I get my puntos. Oh, let's keep you way up here. Puntos in Spanish means points. My Spanish teacher would say that all the time. That we want muchos puntos. Now, puntos is a little bit of a funny word because puto, in case you don't know, is like bitch. So if you quiero muchos puntos, it almost sounds like you quiero muchos putos. And queroing muchos putos is very different than muchos puntos. All right, let's get these down here. Let's get all of them down here. We're also probably gonna need defenses in this room. It's gonna be a little bit rough. He is operating now. Neither of them have their abilities, so. Yikes. Have all the enemies come down? Oh, no. There they are. Okie dokie. I don't think I have enough to... I love when the game makes my job way harder than it needs to be. You gotta love it, dude. You gotta love seeing it. So these rooms are gonna spawn monsters, which is really gonna fuck up my whole day here. Hopefully nothing spawns here. Ay, 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 ay. Oh, we have one shooter in there. I guess that'll be enough. No, it won't. Who am I kidding? I'm huffing fucking hopium. Jesus Christ. No, 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 no. He's level 1, bro. He's gonna get so hurt. No! Puto is closer to the F slur than bitch, by the way. Careful with that one, everyone. Well, there you go. There you go. Now, there is a J word that is much, much more of an analog to that. So be much more careful with the J slur in Spanish, because I understand that that one can have some homophobic undertones to it, but it's not comparable, I would say, to the J one. Just use puta for bitch? Yeah, you could. You certainly could. The male version's going to be a little bit more problematic. All right. Well, that didn't go as bad as I had expected. Make sure you use an enye. Otherwise, you're saying yo tengo 20 años. Anos means you have 20 anuses. I feel like that's a problem you make when you're writing more than a problem you make when you're speaking. No. Do gringos have a hard time with the N versus enye when they actually talk? So to make clear what they're talking about, anos is anus, anuses, and año, where you go nya, like nyan, like what the Japanese do when they talk about cats. That is a completely different thing. But I feel like that's a problem you'd make when you write and not a problem you make when you speak. I don't think you'd mix up nya with but maybe you've seen some shit and I haven't. Oh yeah. Oh. Ooh. Wait, why didn't that work? Oh, I don't have enough money. Of course, I'm poor. Man, fuck. That's a lot of wiping. More for people learning Spanish for the first time. I see. I see. And learning Spanish without a Spanish teacher, I would assume, because enya versus N would be something I would imagine you'd correct almost immediately. for that exact reason. Okay, cool. So far so good with this. I kind of don't want to spend the money on that thingy. I'll just kind of keep going here because I have enough to open and light one more room. Fuck, man. When these are in here, they cover the bottom module that lets me put things in here. Yeah. Okay, we'll kind of move past that. Man, I'm having no luck with these rooms. These are strong monsters. Okay, I'm okay. Wow, I really don't have enough to do anything here. I don't even have enough to research. Maybe I will open this actually. Yes, excellent. Excellent. Put that there. Oh, and it got a lot of dust off of that. Oh, but I don't have any more. Oh, whatever. I'll have it next round. Okay, open this up. Open this up. Wow, this is taking 10.5 years. That's why I need food producers, because I need to level up my dude. Alright, we'll do that. Wow, I have a lot of dust. Dust is this stuff up here. It enables me to light rooms up. And I do have a lot of it. I do have a lot of dust. But I don't have a lot of health right now. Those I think move quicker, so I'm just gonna let them move in here to help me out a little bit. Okay, well, wunderbar. Let's open this up. I still don't really have enough science to research anything, so I'm just gonna keep opening doors here. Do you play any of the other Endless games? No, pretty much just this one. When the new one comes out, I'll play it, but you know, I'm a bit of an old school chap. I basically fell in love with this game, and I don't want to cheat on it. But when the new one comes out, you best believe that I'll be playing that. Yeah. I don't have quite enough defense out here. But, I mean, they're not going to attack anything until they get to this point, so I think I'll be okay. Let's just put one there for safekeeping. And I'll run all the way over there, because that's going to be a nightmare. Endless Space, What game is this? This is Dungeon of the Endless. It's like a dungeon crawler mixed with like a whatchamacallit, tower defense a little bit, because you got the modules and you're trying to keep them from getting to your crystal, and then once you find the exit, you take the crystal out the exit, which we'll see in a bit here. At first, it seems complicated and stuff, but I feel like when you watch somebody else play it, you get an idea for what to do. Like, once you get the basic components, and then you see somebody interacting with the components, I think it becomes a lot easier. Now, technically, you can play this, or I don't know if this is common. The way I was introduced to this game was playing with friends, where every person gets control of an individual character. And, that is cancer, because you have to coordinate. Hey, stay in this room that's dark so nobody fucking spawns there, and I'll do this and I'll do that. Like, I hated that. It's so slow to even open like one door. So I quickly got in the habit of just playing by myself, because I can't deal with that, dude. It's not fun if I have to like micromanage every little thing. Oh man, I'm gonna lose a lot of my dust advantage here. Rip. Oh well, but these guys will attack my people. But yeah, I don't like playing with the other people in the game, so I'm not really about that too much. Oh, I don't have an advantage here. Let's move these people into this room. Yeah. Okay, let's move all you back. I'm going to put these here. Let those do some work so I don't have to take any damage. Not a good idea. Ah! No. This one's over. It sounds like playing an RTS with multiple people controlling the same base. Yeah, that's actually a good parallel. Yeah, and it's not fun. All right, let's do the next one super duper fast. We'll move super quick. I know this is supposed to be a good pairing of people, especially for moving fast, because you get your operating skill really, really quick, but I don't. It's not that I hate talking with people. I hate when a game goes slow. Like, I played Barotrauma with Relly and Wicked Supreme and some other streamer people off stream quite a bit. But I didn't like it because there's so much downtime where it's like one person has to do something, but the rest of everybody is kind of just waiting around. I hate that shit. Like when I'm playing a video game, I want to like play the video game like the whole time. Like if you're gonna make me wait, there has to be some balance there, and I just don't feel like a lot of those games hit the balance. So, okay, you're going in timeout. Chill out, brother. Let's see here. But yeah, it's just it gets boring, you know. Let's see about this. I don't know, I guess we'll research that. Yeah, I can't. I don't like the waiting. I don't like the waiting at all. Not fun for me. Might work better in person. Maybe. I mean, if I'm able to like chat about other stuff that has nothing to do with the game, maybe. But at that point, why don't we play something else? I mean, like Halo is fun in person. I'd rather hop on like an Xbox 360 and play Halo than I would like play Barotrauma in person. I don't know. Is Barotrauma that game Relly is promoing? Ooh. I don't know. If he is, sorry I talked shit on it, but sorry not sorry. I think the game's kind of boring. I didn't sign a contract. I'm allowed to disparage as I please, but you know, if Relly is stuck saying it's good, then Relly is stuck saying it's good, you know. Bing chilling. But not a game for me. I'd promote this game like all day, but certainly not Barotrauma, dude. I wouldn't promote the multiplayer of this game either. I think you'd have to pay me good money to lie about saying the multiplayer of this game is fun, because it's really not. But yeah. All right. Let's hurry up now. Let's get through this. Oh my gosh, more of them. These are like powerful mobs too, I feel like. How's my escape looking? It's probably one of these. Probably this one. Right? I think so. That's gonna be the exit, right? Yes, okay, wonderful. I'll just quickly open up this one. Oh, 2 more. Oh, we have quite a few more doors. I'm not developing like a lot of resources, so it's not like super pertinent that I keep opening doors here. What game do you think does the best job of reducing downtime for you? Well, here's the thing is like, the game has to have downtime in it for like the downtime to be a problem. Most games don't have like a ton of downtime, like League of Legends and stuff, right? Like Call of Duty, whatever. I think Search and Destroy in Call of Duty is a good example of a game that does downtime well. Like you're spectating and it's like high stress and whatever, but it's fun while you're alive. Like I think Search and Destroy in Call of Duty is a good game mode that's an example of that. I don't know in terms of downtime games. I mean, like, I'm focused on this, so it's tough for me to think of like games outside of this right now. Trying to think of games that have like a ton of downtime. Oops. Minecraft, I suppose, maybe. Oh my god, this is not going well for me. Ay. Bruh, just run away. Oh my god. This is what I get for not paying attention. He'll be okay. No, he won't. Oh my god! I would argue you have a lot of downtime in League of Legends. I would argue you don't. So, I don't know what to tell you, Brad. I'm not picking these two. These two fucking suck. I'm going with my people catcher lady and my fat lady. That's what I'm doing. Listening to the stream at the gym. Nice. Well, I'm happy you're doing something productive with your life. It's going to be just about time for me to close this up soon. This will be our last run, okay? We'll try to go really, really quick. Really, really, really quick. Oh, let that go. Walking a lane is about all you get in LoL. Yeah, I mean, or if you're dead, I suppose you have to spectate or something, but I don't think it's like that big of a deal in terms of downtime. I'm trying to think if like Hearthstone and stuff has downtime. I suppose it does while you wait for the other person to do their turn, but it's not intrusive at all, I don't think, personally. But I also don't play those games. I don't play a lot of games, honestly. Implying that drama frogging isn't productive? Who says that? Oh. Yeah, well, it be what it be, Saint. Let's see here. I think I can put something in here. Yes, I can. Okay, wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yes, yes, yes. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay. I'm just gonna go crazy with it. I'm just gonna open the other door. I don't even care if something spawns. Okay, let's put another sciencey thing in here. Open this. Yeah, I don't think drama frogging is productive. I mean, unless you're getting paid to do it, I suppose, then maybe. I guess I gotta leave these. Why is Nightbot spamming? I guess the Nightbot timers have become synced up and now they're not working ideally. Dude, there's so much stuff I have to edit with like Nightbot and Patreon and the channel points thing. There's so much to be done. I keep thinking I can just wait until BGG is done and then just finish it all then, but I don't feel like that's a very practical or realistic solution. I'm probably gonna have to fix that. I've heard whispering that Himbler Hugh is on thin ice. No comment. I do not comment on the moderation discussions that we have, so Bing chilling, bro. Bing chilling. Bing chilling. Okay, that's all done. Grab this. Do that. Oh, I can't. Last door. That's right. Does she have any abilities yet? No? Fuck. Those do so much damage. Their DPS is kind of nutty. Like early on, they're a problem. Okay. I'm gonna grab the crystal and then rearrange the lighting situation here because it's not exactly ideal. I think that'll be good. Put her here. Get her there. All right. But yeah, I mean, like, I think Hugh gets away with a lot more than what the average user would get away with on the Discord. So I don't know. I think Hugh gets a lot of extra moderation consideration, gets away with stuff that the average person wouldn't get away with. So if eventually Hugh does get in trouble, in any kind of serious trouble, or like a timeout longer than a day or something, I don't know. It's tough to feel bad about that if he keeps breaking rules and stuff. That's what I would say in regards to that. But I mean, that should apply for everybody. If anything, it's kind of unfair that Hugh gets away with everything he gets away with. We love Hugh. I get that. It's just who has to follow the rules, right? Like, I don't know. Like, everybody on the Discord should be expected to follow the rules, more or less. And sure, there's some leeway for, like, doing this, that, or the other thing, but when your entire personhood is built on the leeway that the moderation team is giving us, probably not a good sign. Probably not a good sign. Let's get her... Oh, might as well. Okay. Oop, I don't have enough. Don't have enough for that. Okay. Any thoughts on Met Gala stuff? I haven't seen anything about the Met Gala. I saw these like meme pictures that were like horrific faces and masks of like faces that are being torn apart or something. I don't think that had anything to do with the Met Gala, because then when I clicked on the Met Gala like hashtag, I didn't see anything that was like thematically similar. So my guess is that's just some kind of meme or some weird thing. But yeah, besides that, I mean, I haven't really seen anything about the Met Gala. Why? Has something weird happened? Actually, what I did see today was Dave Chappelle got tackled on stage while he was performing. And then I guess his security team jumped on the dude and like attacked him back. And his security team fucked that kid up. You know, I saw that his elbow was like bent the other fucking way when he was on a gurney and they were taking him away. It was like kind of nutty. So yeah, I did see that, but I didn't see anything about the Met Gala in particular. Why, did something happen at the Met Gala? I'm not a big drama or news dude, to be quite honest with you. In case that's not already abundantly clear. All right, let's just open this last door up here. The last little hallway. Oh, I'm gonna need your help. That should be everything. Oh, no, it's not. No, nothing occurred. You think his security team will get sued? Hell no, bruh. Are you kidding me? I mean, they could try, sure. Like, suing, I think anybody can sue as long as it's just like over $20 of damage or something like that. So, I mean, technically they could sue, but do I think that they would win? I don't know. I don't have any reason to believe that. He rushed the fucking stage. Unless they, like, beat the shit out of him afterwards, like... and it was totally unnecessary or something, but I don't have details to believe that. This person is getting banned. Nice. Wow, I'm so quick on moderation nowadays. I've become a true streamer, dude. Okay, let's open this. Doubtful anybody would even take his case. I mean, that would depend on the details, right? Like, if it turns out that they already, like, secured him and, like, got him under control, but then they held him, like, by his arms, by his back, like, from behind him, and then they let people take turns beating the shit out of him, and then they laid him on the floor and snapped his elbow backwards as slowly as they possibly could. You know, like, technically there is a torturous situation I could see where it's like, okay, well, that's not okay. I would sue the fuck out of you if you did that to me. But, you know, apparently the tackler had a replica gun with a knife inside, or so I've read. Well, that would be crazy, wouldn't it? You jump on the stage, you got like a fake gun and knife. Like, Jesus Christ, what was he expecting to do? Take Dave Chappelle hostage? Like, holy shit. It's kind of nutty. Thank you for that. I appreciate the sub. Couchman 1111 says 7 months Pagu. Yeah, welcome to the club. Happy to have you. 7 months. Oh, you're becoming a very long-term member. Okay, hold on. I gotta focus here for a second. That's neat good. Neat good. Yes, that's right. Follow me into the room. Yes. Okie dokie. I'm gonna open up one more door. That's what I'm gonna do. Just one more. Just one more. But yeah, I mean, if you're tackling somebody on stage when they have a whole fucking security team and you have like fake gun and knife and whatever, like, Jesus, well, that's That is a recipe for disaster if I have heard one. I've been in Twitch poll too long. Maybe. I mean, I almost hesitate to say we're a part of Twitch poll, but we definitely are. I mean, it's not as bad as some other places, though. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. It could be a lot worse, dude. Being a sub here, I think, is a lot better than being a sub in other places. I'll be real with you. Keep it $1.50. Oh, man, they're killing all my shit. No. No. Whatever. I call your community Twitch poll adjacent. Whatever. Well, that's the end of it. I'm playing too quick, dude. Not keeping track of all the variables here. All right, I'm gonna send the Twitch people somewhere else. Let's find a home for you. Let's do irrelevant. Speaking of, let's go to Rally, huh? I'll send you guys over there. Irrelevant. All right. Have a good time, everybody. I'll talk to you later. I'm going to go do a dinner thing and enjoy the rest of my night. Touch grass. Have a good one. Enjoy. I will talk to you later. Goodbye. Bloop. And to my YouTube people, it's been a fun time. Thanks for hanging out. And I hope we can do more of this kind of content and covering Supreme Court stuff and having a good time while doing it. Bye.